And good morning. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio, brought to you by Glory Days Grill, where you can find Goose Flight's Lager. It's available in cans at every Glory Days Grill location in the state of Maryland. It's also available at some other locations. In cans at Alonzo's on Cold Spring Lane, the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook. Cans and Sixers available if you go to Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North, or Costas Inn in Dundalk. Sixers and cases available at the Wine Source in Hamden. $1.98 from every can sold to the Goose Flights Foundation, providing non-emergency medical transport to those in need. Help us continue the legacy of the late, great Tony Siragusa, and have a delicious beer. You're not watching football anymore. What are you doing with the time? I say drink. That's the responsible thing to do. I'm Glenn Clark. I think I approve this message. Goose Flight's Lager.
Good read. Good job.
It just happened there. I think it worked. Busy day on tap. Drew will join us in a bit because we don't have the ability to say no. Any one of these weeks, we just be like, we're good. It's all good. But we don't. I don't know why. We just don't. Later in the program, our first NFL draft segment of the season. Tony Pauline will check in with us, longtime friend of ours. Tony is now at the Sports Kita covering the NFL draft, so we will chat with him about some of the Ravens' options. The real problem right now is before free agency begins and you start to get some of these answers, I can't even zero in really on what the Ravens' needs are.
Feels like there's about 4 to 5.
It's amazing because all season long we kept talking about how they were such a complete roster. And then right now, I would say edge rush is, to me, the primary need. But then I think about, what if Ronnie Stanley is released? Then is the primary need left tackle? And then, there's that whole Zay Flowers situation. So does the primary need become wide receiver again? They don't really know what they're doing at running back. I don't think it's the primary need, but I would say it might be a need. It's the Ravens. They could probably always use another cornerback. I don't know. I don't know what the needs are. I just don't know. So we'll dive into all of them with Tony Pauline. We'll just sort of get to know some of the prospects at the various positions that could be available at 30. Also this morning, we will chat with Paul Rabil, of course, the founder of the co-founder of the PLL. They are down in D.C. for their annual PLL Championship Series, which I think takes on a bit more importance this year because with lacrosse being approved for the Olympics, it's a reminder that what they're doing, this is what lacrosse is going to look like at the Olympics, the sixes format. So the guys that are participating, and it's the 4 teams that were in the semifinals a year ago, so unfortunately our boys are not a part of it.
So it's kind of a sham.
No, it's definitely not that.
Well,
not that at all.
Need the whips in it.
I understand. You're A1 fan of the whips.
Got to get back.
But the reality is this is very important for determining. I don't know what he's doing, but I don't like it. I don't know. No. Stop it. Also, Kiley McDaniel will join us this morning from ESPN, talk about his prospect rankings, his system rankings, the whole thing. I don't want to know. I don't tell me. Let's move on.
I got that.
No.
I got the Sunday.
I don't want to know.
Sunday red underwear.
Oh.
And the tag in the back.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a tag?
You mean the Jim Nantz Sunday red underwear?
No,
because
the Tiger Sunday red.
I could have sworn it was because Jim Nantz wears Sunday red underwear.
No, I got the Tiger Sunday red underwear. I got everything. I got the gloves.
He's not going to be playing on Sunday. Why would you do that?
I don't know if he'll play this Sunday or not.
Probably not. Let's be honest.
What are the odds on that he makes the cut?
Let's see.
I don't know.
Golf Talk Live here.
No, we're not doing that.
Nice
we're
haircut, by the way.
Definitely not doing that.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not. Tiger's playing in the tournament.
I'm quite aware.
It's the biggest story in sports.
Well, no, it's not that, but I understand the argument could be there's no other stories in sports, so it might default to it because there's nothing else.
Tiger to make the cut. What's the bet there? Plus 125?
I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this.
Go to your Superbook.
I'm looking.
Yes, of course, we go to superbook.com or download the Superbook app, and we use the code GlennClark23 when we sign up because that'll get you up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose from Superbook. But I don't even know if they've got odds on Tiger making the cut this weekend.
Yes is -135.
Oh.
No way.
What's no?
No way.
+115.
I would go ahead. I'd go ahead.
Is,
what are we
so
doing?
there is a cut.
The Genesis, right? This is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a cut. I didn't know that there was a cut. Okay. Because
Tiger
I thought it
was
was
to
in a.
make the
It's a
36
smaller
hole cut.
field.
Yeah, I didn't think there was a cut. Okay.
All right. Well, there you
Over
go.
under finishing position of 45.
Well, how many
He's
people-
never played the golf
How
course.
many people playing it?
He's never played the golf course well. If you made me bet that, what are the other bets?
He's the only one that you can bet on for to make the cut.
Okay.
Scotty is the favorite, +700.
I would bet if you made me bet one way or the other.
God's sakes.
I would bet the Tiger doesn't make it.
Yeah, that's what I would do too.
He's never played the golf course well.
Right. Everybody knows that. I would just bet that a guy that doesn't play golf anymore.
Oh, be careful.
Yeah.
You're talking about Tiger.
I understand that.
You're talking about Tiger.
Didn't you used to be Tiger
Are we on
Woods?
the air Monday?
It's a really bad idea.
One-
Are we or not?
Yes, we are.
I did not get the text.
All three of us. It's going to be super
I'm not.
uncomfortable.
The only way I'm coming in is if I get named ahead of her.
No, in fact, oh, you're going to love this. Oh, I can't wait to show you how it's listed on the schedule. Oh, man, this is actually going to be my favorite moment of all time.
Well, I'm not coming in.
Oh, this is going to be
if
a
I'm
good
not
day.
at least number 2.
So there was a schedule sent out for 105.7 The Fan, and it's a holiday, of course, on Monday. It's
Do we get
it's
paid extra?
No, I don't think we do. It's President's Day, and if
Okay.
there's any group of people that we definitely should be honoring around here, it's the presidents.
Oh yeah, we should.
They've earned it.
We're all going to stumble in and fall over ourselves.
They've earned it. So it's a holiday schedule on Monday,
Okay.
and scheduled to work Monday morning. Oh man,
Can I have this water?
I can't. Probably. I can't wait till you read how this is written.
I'm going to
out.
be pissed.
Go ahead. Read that. Read that on Monday. Yeah, go ahead. Look at 6 a.m. Look at what that is.
I am not coming in now.
Glenn Clark and friends. And you know what? I think that's correct. I think that's written out correctly.
Seems racist to me.
What?
Seems racist to me.
You're white.
The other person isn't.
That's true. But you are.
Well, she should be
You didn't-
listed.
Yeah, I agree with that. She should be.
Are we
She
really doing a
should
show
be.
together, the three of
It's
us?
a terrible idea. It's one of the worst ideas that I've ever heard in my entire life.
That's fine.
And this is
We'll get
it's
her
a-
sorted out.
This is the problem.
We'll get her sorted
no,
out.
we won't. This is the problem. I know you,
Okay.
and I know her,
Okay.
and I'm gonna have to do all the work.
Is it oil and water?
Oh,
No, we're going to get along fine, right?
you'll
Rita
get
and I?
along. You'll get along.
Yeah.
But I don't know to prepare. I know what show to prepare when I do a show with you. I know what show to prepare when I do a show with her. I don't know which way to go in preparing this show.
Well,
I have no
let's
idea.
do what we always used to do, real sports
yeah,
talk.
don't prepare. That's
Real-
what you're suggesting.
real-
Just show up,
real
prepare
sports
nothing.
real sports talk.
We were really good at that. There was no skill that we had more than not preparing to do a show, you and I.
yeah.
So I look
We were the
forward
best
to
show on that station.
Well, that part might be. Hang on a second. What was our competition? Like, you do have to consider that. And Bob was okay. Bob was at the point of his time there. When we were all serving our time there. Bob was at the point where he just didn't care any longer.
Oh, yeah. Bob
What were the other shows? So
Bob could have
Haney-
worn a
it was-
mailman's
it was-
outfit at that point.
Yeah, it was so at the time it would have been Bob, and then Rob was in the afternoons.
Bob and Rob together.
No,
No,
Rob
Dave
did
goes
Bob
better.
midday.
Rob did a good job.
Rob still cared. Rob still.
Oh, yeah.
Bob, who was as good as this as anybody, really.
Wow.
I mean, Bob's incredible.
Maybe the best this town's had in 25 years.
But at that point, Bob just did not give a rat's ass.
Right.
He hated that place as much as everybody else
every
did.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Keith Kavanaugh,
Yep,
this guy, that
yep,
guy,
just-
NBA
just-
guy. Like, Bob didn't care.
Bob did not care. He would just go to Ray Bachman, go ahead, book who. He didn't care.
Right.
Bob would be like, you could.
And still killed it.
Could have. By the way, it was still 100%.
Kind of like Bob Dylan right now. Right.
Like, you would find yourself still listening.
Right.
He wasn't trying.
You didn't know
and
he
you
didn't
would
care.
Still
We
listen
knew he
to
didn't
him.
care, but no one else knew.
Correct. Bob absolutely had given up on that place. And he would tell you. Like, he'd walk in for one day and say, hey, Bob, how you doing? He'd be like, just checking the box today. He just did not care at all.
It's
And
weird
he was-
because a lot
he
of
knew
us were
so
very
much about sports.
A lot of us were very motivated there,
Yeah.
except for him.
Ex-
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, we were motivated.
Yeah.
Drew and I, we actually cared. We just didn't prepare. Like
Right.
that was the difference.
We did the opposite.
We cared deeply.
I cared up until I got the $100 thrown at me.
Oh, yeah.
That was
a
my
hell of a day.
no.
God,
I don't know if I've ever said this. Like that was my.
Oh, that broke you? That was the moment?
pretty much the end of my allegiance.
So we were in Indianapolis for the combine.
Because that was completely.
You
that
never
was,
went back to the combine.
I did not.
Yeah, you never.
And
went
that
back.
it was so embarrassing to be treated like that.
Yeah.
After leaving my wife and kids and going to this the worst event I've ever been to in my life. And getting there and being treated like that. I just remember getting on the plane and going, yeah, I think this is that one. You never know what straw it is. You never know.
So we did spring training because I remember
You never know what straw it is.
That was
the straw.
That was the straw.
Here's your go get yourself food. And he threw $100 at us. I'm like, you take that. I think I remember saying,
you did.
You take that $100 and stick it up your rear end.
You did.
I was not happy.
You gave him and then I was actually pissed. I was like, why did you give him the $100?
He crumpled it up and said, you can take that $100 and stick it up your rear end.
And Drew was like, well, we'll just go ahead and pay, and then we'll get somebody else to reimburse us.
Paul
when we get
reimburses,
back.
right.
Like, we'll deal with that.
It was the worst event I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah, Drew is not.
I walked up
a
there.
fan of the
I went
combine.
to go downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the elevator button, and the button's not lighting up.
Right.
The guy comes walking up. Can I help you? I said, yeah. Hey, how's it going? I'm just trying to get downstairs. The elevator's not working. He goes, what are you going downstairs for? I said, watch the combine. He goes, who you with? I said, a radio station. I showed him my thing. He goes, yeah, you can't go downstairs.
Like, it's on the screen.
I said, what are you talking about?
Like, I'm watching it on the screen right now.
He goes, yeah, you can't go down.
So
you can't go in the
you're
stadium.
not allowed out there.
Wait a minute. I can't what?
Yeah.
He said, you can't go into the stadium.
Yeah.
I said, no, hold on a minute. The combine is being held on the field.
Right. And it's
here.
It's not a state secret. I'm watching it. There it is.
Can't go.
Right there. Nope, not allowed out.
I went back in.
Yeah.
And I said, you duped me into coming to this thing.
Well, at the time, remember, we weren't broadcasting from the combine.
Which made it 10 times worse.
That was the goofy part. Because after that, I said, well, we're going to go broadcast from the combine. Because then we got all the coaches to come over.
Right.
Ken Wisenhunt wanted to fight me for some reason.
Right.
I asked him if he was going to. I think I asked Ken Wisenhunt if he was going to trade for Peyton Manning. And he was furious with me. I'm like, what the F, guy? Like, I think it's a reasonable question. Are you going to try to trade for Peyton Manning? And he was mad. Like, he wanted to fight me. Like, how dare I ask him that question? I'm like, you could just say yes or no or not answer the question. It's okay. And I had gotten along with Ken Wisenhunt. Like, I didn't understand what that was all about. When we broadcast from the combine, it was fine because we had...
Well, we were doing stuff.
Right.
We were brought there under the guise of...
We were covering the combine.
This is going to be awesome.
Right.
And it was... it was just awful.
Well, you also refused to participate in the part of the combine that everybody says is the real combine, which is hanging out at the bar at midnight and letting the drunk coaches stagger in and tell you what they really feel. Right?
Here's the right, and I guess the reality is,
I got to tell you,
here's the truth.
That I could have gone without Jack Del Rio bending my ear at 2 a.m.
And here's the truth. I guess I should say this. I've never really liked the draft. Like, I get it, by the way. People have made their living off the draft.
By the way, our first NFL draft segment coming up today at 11 a.m.
I know. I was never a draft Nick, I guess is the best way to put it. I didn't dislike the draft. It's not like I'm anti-draft. I just didn't. It wasn't my thing. And I went because I was asked to go, and I was told, hey, this will be good for you guys to go, and I'm a listener, meaning I'm a listener, not a I'm not somebody. If you say to me, I think this is a good idea, I'll listen to you. And he said it's a good idea. You and Glenn should go. And in fairness, you were
at the time.
You were a draft Nick.
At the time. But this was a time
you liked that.
I was not married.
And in fairness,
I had no
you
kids.
were 28 then, trying to or whatever.
Oh, I wasn't 28.
Whatever you were. 24,
26,
whatever.
yeah.
But you were at the stage too where you were trying to, and you've done a nice job of it. You were trying to be a real sports broadcaster, and this was good for you. I was at that stage in my life where I didn't care.
You weren't quite Bob Haney, but you were
about certain things. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that I mean, and you know this because you went with me, and this is not to be disrespectful to anyone else on the station. You and I, and I'm not including Luke because he wasn't on then, you and I were the only people that went over to the football team on Mondays and Wednesdays and acted like we cared.
Mm-hmm.
Those other guys never went.
No.
Those other guys never went over on Wednesday
No.
or Monday.
No.
Now,
I think
some of
everybody
them,
went one time during
but,
training
right,
camp.
but some of them
and-
were
yeah.
also on the air, and
Yeah.
but you and I went over there and
Yep.
sat in that in that auditorium, and sometimes got sniped at by John.
Right.
And then on Wednesdays we'd walk around, and Adam Terry would give us the stink eye. Like you and I went over there. I cared about that.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I cared about going to the Orioles until Greg Bader got and I got in a fight. I cared about that stuff. I just didn't care about the draft. It never appealed to me. I always and here's the funniest part. The real funny part is when I was in the soccer business, I was the only guy in the league that cared about the draft.
Right. Well, I mean, it's
That's
a
the
little bit-
funniest
It's a
part.
little bit different,
Right,
sure,
but when
yeah.
I was in the soccer business,
Right.
I was the guy going to college soccer games to chase college players, and coaches and GMs would say to me every single year, how did you know about David Vaudreuil
Right.
and Rusty Troy and Doug Neely? How did you? And I said, because I went and watched them play.
Yep. What an idea.
So
What a concept.
I loved it when I was involved in it.
Yeah.
When I got out of it, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't know how we got to
Anyway,
this point.
well, we
Yeah,
were
I
just
don't know.
talking about
Oh,
the
your-
old days
your
of the
breaking
station.
point.
And my
Yeah,
breaking,
we
that
talked
was
about
my
your
breaking
breaking
point.
point.
Was when I got the money thrown at us
That was when
because
Drew-
we didn't want to share a plate. Remember?
God, he said,
That's what it was.
He said, let's go get a platter. That's what he said. Let's go get a platter.
He was looking at the menu.
Yeah.
Because the hotel had a
Yeah.
Fridays
Yes,
attached
that's
to
exactly
it.
what it was.
And we were in the lobby,
So-
and he said, hey, they've got this platter. It's got 6 wings,
Yeah.
12 carrot
Yeah.
sticks, and 14 Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
And we let's go in there and grab that real quick. I'm like, I'm actually hungry.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get a meal. Right? I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna go find.
I think you and I might have even
We
said
ended
we
up at-
wanted to go to like St. Elmo's. Remember? Didn't we want to
that
go
was the night we
somewhere?
ended up at the Canterbury.
But isn't that somewhere where we wanted to go legit?
Yeah.
And he said, why don't we just go in here?
Right. Right.
You know what the problem is with you guys? You eat too. He said you eat too much.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, at the
don't-
time.
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
I know it's too much.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to, but that's not your problem. All right, so I don't know what you care about this week. I have no idea where your head's at. Do you still care at all about the overtime thing and who takes the ball first? Is that on you?
Oh, well, no. I mean, I think it's a very fun discussion point. I do believe you take the ball first, personally.
Okay.
I understand all of the components to it. I get it that the positives about taking it first. Here they are. Your defense gets a rest, assuming you're on the field for some period of time. Your defense gets a rest. That's first and foremost. If you score any kind of offensive point, it now puts the other team in a must-score situation on their next series. If they don't score 3, assuming you score 3, or they don't score 7 or 6, assuming you do, then you win. And in fact, the whole plan worked perfectly for the 49ers. They couldn't stop the kid on 4th and 1. They had the whole game. They had a 3-foot putt. All they had to do was stop it, and they couldn't do it. Now, 4th and 1 isn't 4th and 6 either, but like it all worked out perfectly till they gave up the 4th down. So I do, and then I also understand that if you receive the ball first, and the other and the game is still tied after both of you have the ball once, then it is sudden death, and now you do definitely have the advantage because now if you score, you win, and they don't get the ball back. So if you want to keep Mahomes off the field, that's the easiest way to do it. Win the game, he doesn't come back on the field. So I get all that, but I also get when you get the ball second. You have now seen what the other team has done.
You know.
You also now get 4 downs instead of 3.
Yep.
That is an important component to consider given the other team's quarterback. You might not mind if Brock Purdy had 4 downs. You do mind if if Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen has 4 downs. It does change. And I do get that you're now basically saying to them, on this series, you will get 4 downs on every single well, on this possession, you'll get 4 downs in every series.
Yep.
I get it. It also gives you the benefit, and the Chiefs said they were going to do this. I'm not so sure I believe it, but they said it also gives you the benefit that if the other team scores a touchdown and kicks the extra point and you score a touchdown, you can then go for 2 and win.
Correct.
Or go for 2 and lose.
Yep.
I understand both of them. I don't think either one of them is demonstratively different.
Can't believe we agree.
I just don't see either one of them being enough of an advantage to consider it. I would take the ball first. And in some ways, the reason I would take the ball first is because their defense had just been on the field.
So that was relevant on Sunday, and it was pointed out by a couple of people. Because I would disagree. I would say in general, if I have any belief at all in my offense, I would take the ball second because the 2-point conversion to me is the hammer. Right?
Would you really go for 2?
Yes, I would.
Would you really?
If I'm the team that would go for 2, that's the big thing now.
Man.
This to me depends on if you're the team that when you're down 14 late and you score in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left, the thing now is you're supposed to go for 2. And if you would do that.
To make it 6 or 8.
To make it 6, because then if you score again,
you win.
You win. And if you don't get the 2,
then you score 2 and you get a tie.
A 2-point conversion, essentially, the belief is it's 50-50. So if you go for it twice, you're
I
going
would
to
almost say one of the interesting things about overtime would be that you should have to go for 2.
That's interesting.
I would think that should be part of it.
Interesting. They changed the college rule now, so like in the second overtime you have to go for 2.
Yes.
And then after the second overtime it's just 2-point conversions, right?
I think the whole thing just came down to the ability or inability of a team to make a defensive stop, and the Chiefs did it, and the 49ers couldn't do it. And to me, it just came down to that. I don't think Kyle Shanahan lost them the game.
And that's the part. It's
kind of a joke that people are saying
It's a crazy thing that you say. I would want to defer and take the ball second, but I agree with you. To me, it's just a preference. That's all it is.
Right.
The idea that one of these is correct. It's funny. Do you want to go ahead and hit the sounder?
There isn't one that's correct.
Hang on a second. Because I don't know if you prepared something for the segment today, but what I have prepared is related to this. So let's go ahead and do it.
Don't you see something every day and you say to yourself, this is the problem with this place? Yeah, this is what's wrong with the country. What's wrong with the country is we're not willing to talk about what's wrong with the country. That is true.
What's wrong with this country is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Griffin, what's going on at Live Casino
God,
and
I love
Hotel?
this segment.
Live Casino and Hotel is the place to be this weekend and every weekend. Sports and social. You'll want to be there for UFC 298 this weekend. And it features an on-site FanDuel location, and it is your ultimate spot to watch your favorite sports on their massive 100-foot media wall. Order up your favorite game day bites, take a sip from their signature crushes and extensive beer selections, all just steps away from the FanDuel Sportsbook. Watch, wager, and win at Sports and Social at Live Casino in Hotel, Maryland. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
So here's what's wrong with this country. I don't know why I followed this person, to be fair. I was like, why is this in my timeline? It's because I was following this person. T.R. Sullivan previously covered the Texas Rangers for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and MLB.com. He has since retired. T.R. Sullivan tweeted the following yesterday. Super Bowl, overtime, you win the toss. Take the ball first, score, and then, if the game is still tied after both teams' possession, you have the first chance to win in sudden death. Shanahan made the right decision. Glad to be able to clear that up for everyone. Now, here's what's wrong with this country. First of all, this person presented an opinion as though it's fact. But everybody does that. It's not even the part of it that bothers me the most. It's the unbelievable way in which we think we know something that everyone else doesn't know. We are so detached. That's all Twitter is. You tweet something, someone else follows up. How many times on Would You Rather Wednesday do I put something else out there, and the first response I get back is, well, I don't think they would make that trade.
Well, we know that.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. God, you have added something. My God, what a hero you are today. This person This tweet to me is so 2024, it should be studied. They should teach it in universities. This is who we are as a people. This person woke up yesterday genuinely believing they knew something about this debate that the rest of us didn't know. Wait! They get the ball in sudden death? Really? The exact thing that Kyle Shanahan said after the game when he was asked about why he did it? Thank you, T.R. Sullivan! You've saved us! We had no idea! You have truly cleared that up for everyone. That is who we are, man. We genuinely believe. I feel like one of the best strengths I have is knowing how much I don't know. And understanding that I don't know if I'm right about certain things. Instead of just believing at all times that I'm right because I've convinced myself that I'm right. And thinking that it adds something to the national discourse. Glad I could clear that up there for everyone. What the F do you think you cleared up?
Right.
What? In what way do you think you cleared something up today? You just repeated the things that we're all talking about. It's okay sometimes if there's not a correct answer. Your boy Brian Jackson was getting after me yesterday. Well, I mean, obviously the answer would be you take the ball first. No, it's not obvious, Brian. It's not. No. And it's okay. I have an opinion about the subject.
Yeah, that's the word, by the way, that's the word that changes the course of the discussion.
Right. Obviously.
No, it isn't.
No.
Right.
You know that because it's 3 days later and we still don't have an answer. And even the nerds don't have an answer for that. Even the people that always are like they are right. We have studied this.
There's so much of it. I got two things for you today. Really, it'll be three, but I'm going to I'll connect two in the same one.
Okay.
We have to. Something has happened in this country. And it might just so much of what's happening in the country is connected to the presidents, plural, the presidents over the last 15 years. I'm not saying good or bad, that they've done a good or bad job. I'm saying so much of what's going on in the country is connected to the presidents because we've got to have a scapegoat. Everyone in sports. The reason the Ravens lost was because of Todd Monken.
Well, or John
Harbaugh. Right.
Yeah.
The reason the Ravens lost was because of John. The reason the Ravens lost is because of Zay Flowers. The reason we have got to have a scapegoat. Kyle Shanahan's the scapegoat. If the coin gets flipped and it comes up heads,
right, he doesn't even.
It never even gets to Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
Like we do this all the time. Scapegoat. Who's the scapegoat? Kyle Shanahan wasn't playing defense. He wasn't the guy that was watching Hardman run by him in the end zone. But it's always about, and then this dovetails into this thing about coaching, and you see it more and more and more. A lot of it is because of the proliferation of the internet, and everyone has obviously knows way more than the coaches. Here's the boilerplate. Here's the statement for all of you. You don't know anything even remotely close to what the coaches know. You don't. Period. You don't know as much football as John Harbaugh. You don't know as much baseball as Brandon Hyde. You don't know as much hockey as, well, maybe you do, as the guy in D.C. No, you don't know as much as they know. And here's why. Because you aren't there. You watch the games, and you think you know.
Well, and to be fair, that doesn't mean they don't get things wrong. Everybody does.
Coaches get things wrong all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
I would say the best piece I saw all year, I think I mentioned this to you on the air, the best piece of footage I saw all year was after the Dolphins lost to the Titans on Monday night when McDaniel went into the team meeting, and it was on the Hard Knocks, and said to those guys.
Yeah, it's on me, right? I let you down.
I don't know what I was doing.
Yep.
My hands are so in this loss. Now, I also know what he was doing.
He was trying to get his team, like, hey, buck up. This one's not on you.
I think I told the story, right? We lost the match last year against St. Paul's. I specifically stood up in the parking lot after the match and said, "This is on me.
Right.
I should have never scheduled this match the day after we came back from spring break. This is totally my fault." And in some ways, I did believe that because I did think we would play better coming out of spring break. And in fact, we flatlined. So I did take the blame for that. There are times when the coaches are wrong, and Mike McDaniel did have his hands in it, and he said that. I can't believe and he said specifically, the play call on 3rd and 6, I don't know what I was thinking about. That was so dumb. Now, he's also saying that because hindsight tells him he was wrong.
Yep.
But this constant chase for a scapegoat is, I don't know where we got into this in our country, where somebody has to get the blame. And you see it now with all of the people on the one side who think Biden doesn't know what he's doing, and all the people on the other side who don't think Trump's doing it.
So I would add that some of it might have to do with the fact that we also have a problem in our country where no one does want to accept blame.
100%.
Like, I think I think that does
100%.
I'm not sure what the percentage is, when did it start, but I do think that we have an issue where no one wants to, young people,
that's on me
in particular, that when it's just easy to say, "Hey man, I screwed up and I'm sorry." It's the easiest thing in the world to do. I get into this with my wife all the time. I know when I'm wrong. I just say, "Hey, I screwed that up. I'm sorry. I goofed. I effed up. I am sorry." It's not hard. But for some reason, it's very hard. We can't do that. I don't know when that started. It's not going to fix it, but it goes a long way into at least saying, "Hey, I accept that. I get it. I got to do better." And instead, it's, I was confused. I screwed up. My bad. I'm sorry. I made the mistake here, and we don't do that.
Here's another thing wrong with the country, and this is definitely territorial because I don't think they have this problem in Florida, but we have it here, and you saw it yesterday.
They closed the school.
I
went on a 20-minute rant about it. I went on a 20. It's unreal.
It's unbelievable what we're teaching these kids subconsciously when you close the schools. You then make the day, you've given them no ability at all to learn about anything. You just say, "We're going to close the schools today, and you don't have to do anything." Instead of saying at 5 a.m., the schools are open.
We did this, by the way, for years. We figured out how school could be on a computer.
The schools are open.
Everybody had to do it.
Right, but notwithstanding that, the schools are open. It's now 5 a.m. Schools are open. You now have, and even if you wanted to say the schools are open an hour late, okay. It's 5 a.m., it's 6 a.m., schools are open. You now have to figure out your day. Okay, I need to get dressed and get ready. Your parents say, it might take a little longer for us to get to school today. So we need to plan out the morning. Gotcha, Mom. Getting ready. Oh, by the way, we also need, you know what you also need to do? Because you're 12, you need to go out and ice the driveway for the family. Go out and prepare for us to leave. You know what else I need you to do? Scrape off Mom's windshield. But it's cold. You're right, it's cold. You know what? Put on a coat. Go outside, scrape off the windshield. And by the way, while you're at it, Mrs. Atkinson next door, who's 77,
she could use hers. Yeah.
Go scrape off her windshield, but it's really cold. Good, put on a hat and go scrape off her windshield. Am I getting anything for it? Yeah, you know what you're getting for it? You're not getting your ass beat. Go next door and scrape off her windshield.
You'll have dinner tonight.
Gotcha, Mom. Good. Okay, it's 7:50. It's usually only a 10-minute drive, but we got to leave now because I want to make sure we're there by 8:45. Well, what am I going to do for 20 minutes? Sit there in the lobby of the school and pray, talk to your friends, anything. Open up your book.
Novel concept.
This concept of not having school because it was raining and icy is outrageous.
It wasn't icy.
What are
if
you
it was icy,
teaching
there would be a
them?
problem. There was no ice.
What are we teaching these kids? What we're teaching them is, in the very first instance where there might be trouble, stay in your room.
Quit.
It's unreal. And then we wonder why these kids are a mess. Get their asses on the bus and send them to school, or drive them to school, or walk to school backwards with your shoes off like I used to do.
Exactly, for miles, of course.
But I'm serious.
Walk, right?
It's unbelievable that we take these kids out of school because it rained.
Part of the problem is adults want to be children. It is an epidemic. Adults.
I've never seen anything like it. Yesterday was like. It was comical. And I do understand that geographically there are areas of this county.
I live in one of them. It was fine.
But there are areas of the county that the weather differs.
Yes.
I totally get that.
It was fine. You could go to school yesterday.
Make them go 2 hours late. Get in your car. Go get the de-icer and get in your car and go to school.
Well, actually, I'm opposed to 2 hours late because then it puts them on the road at the same time as I'm trying to go to work. So I don't want that. I
just can't get over how we've done this.
It was comical. It was comical yesterday, and it speaks to adults that want to be children. There's snow.
But we're not teaching them anything.
I might get a day off.
We need to be teaching them that you are going to face stuff in your life that creates problems.
Problem solving.
You're just going to create them. And the way we solve it is go in your room and play on the video games.
You had a tough day yesterday. Huh?
I didn't, but
You sure?
I just couldn't believe this is what we do. If it's 9 inches of snow, I get it.
Yes, close the schools. The number to me is like 6. If there's a half a foot of snow, the schools have to be closed.
But it just
can't do that.
It's unreal that as soon as something goes wrong, our first inclination is to just say, okay, we'll wipe our hands of that. We'll give up.
We tried.
We can't go to school today because it's snowing.
We're all out of ideas. Well, what was your first idea? None.
I saw something, and this is a month ago. It was right after the holiday. The Duluth. I'm going to just call it the Duluth County school system, and it could be called something else. But they and since 2000, they have closed schools in Duluth, Minnesota 5 times.
Well, yeah, okay, but they're a lot more prepared for these things.
But I'm saying that. But
I get it. I get it.
But they're going when there's 30 inches of snow.
I know.
And they don't care.
I know.
It's unreal. And we are molding these kids into pansies.
All right. Well, I don't know if we need to say pansies. I don't know if we need to do that.
Well, that's what's wrong with the country. Toughen up.
I agree that they should have gone to school
and teach them how to navigate their way through these things.
That was insane. Yesterday was insane. There was no reason why anybody needed to be.
It was like this at noon.
Not even at noon. I looked at it like
it was hilarious.
At like 10:40. I looked over. We just finished.
People were playing golf at noon,
and I looked at Griffin. I said, "There's no snow. It's all gone. There's not a speck." And there was barely any when I got here.
And by the way, we all know what the root of this is. And this is another thing wrong with the country.
Lawsuits, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, lawsuits. Yeah,
100%. And I'm not, when I say what I'm about to say, please, this is not an endorsement of one of the presidential candidates. They just gave a woman $83 million.
Okay, well, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Lawsuits are what we do. Lawsuits are what we do. We're waiting for someone to slip on the ice so we can get $44 million because our kid broke his leg. So they are afraid of lawsuits because people are dying to sue someone.
There is that. That part is true.
They're dying to sue somebody.
That part is true.
Who can I, my car slid off the road, who can I sue? And that is what's wrong.
You good? You good?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday.
Oh, I don't blame you.
I did.
And
I do get it, that the root of it is legality. You got to be careful.
That's part of the root of it. The other part of the root of it is adults want the day off because they want to be children. Adults want to act like children. An opportunity to get a free day where I didn't have to do my work or I saw there was snow in the forecast, so I drank the night before. They are big fans of that. They are big because it was never an announcement the night before. That never happened when we were growing up. And we didn't have the internet then. We didn't have the ability to quickly get the information to everybody. You can text everybody in 2 seconds now. But growing up, there was the night before, there's no snow on the ground. We're going to go ahead and close the schools tomorrow because there might be snow. That didn't happen. That was not a thing. That's come today because people want to be able to get ahead of it and they want to know that they can have a beer. They want to know I can drink tonight because I'm not going to school tomorrow.
All right, let's get to the whole story of the week, which is the behavior about the of the people at the golf tournament.
It's not the story of the week, but I'll let you have 2 seconds on it when we come back in. Drew's here. We still have a lot to do today. We're going to talk some NFL
Snow in
draft.
the forecast.
Well, then we might have to close everything. It's Would You Rather Wednesday edition. Scenarios are up at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Brought to you by Glory Days Grill here on GCR.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Jeremy Kahn here. The ultimate sports betting experience in Maryland is at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook. Join me at either location in Canton or in Towson and place your bets in person and be a part of the action. It's the best in-class sports wagering experience, complete with the ultimate TV package, ensuring you can catch every game all day, every day. Their state-of-the-art facilities bring Las Vegas energy right here to Maryland just in time for postseason football. So visit the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton and Towson and elevate your game day experience and hang out with me to bet, watch, and win at the Turtle.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the show. Drew Forrester is here, drewsmorningdish.com.
You realize 200,000 people went to that golf tournament Saturday?
I do. I've been to the golf tournament, so
but
I know
200,000 people.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Keep it in your pants for 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Toyota. Do you think you know high school basketball? Go to countysportszone.com where you can pick the winners and earn points to see where you stand on the leaderboard. Only at countysportszone.com, presented by your local Toyota dealer. So
Tyler home Pilate tonight.
I'm not. Oh, okay. I'm not giving you 5 minutes on this because nobody here actually cares. No one does.
Well, there's only 3 of us here.
No one in this region cares.
Well, I don't know about that.
In Arizona, it's a huge story because they're going to have to make drastic changes to this thing. But this has always been the drunk tournament. This has always been the party tournament. This has always been this is what makes this one different. But it got wildly out of hand over the course of the weekend. Wildly.
I don't even know if that might be wildly. You might have called and said you're underselling it. They had 200,000 people there.
Well,
name another something other than a march somewhere in D.C. Name another something where 200,000 people come together.
I was not aware because I don't think they did this when I was there, that they now sell a general admission any day pass. What day do you think people are going to go?
Saturday or Sunday.
Like, you think people are using that for Tuesday?
Right.
to come in and watch the Pro-Am, to watch media people try to, like, come on, man. Right. Why would you do that? Why would you sell? That's the first thing that they screwed up, is that they would ever offer an any-day general admission pass. You got to know how many people are coming to the course every day. There can't be some surprise where they're like, wow, all the people picked Saturday. That's weird. Why would they do that? Well, maybe because it's Saturday.
Other tournaments, by the way, the Byron Nelson does it now. Someone else does it too. Maybe it's the John Deere. There are some other tournaments who have built these amphitheaters, for lack of a better term, stadium seating kind of things. Like Phoenix, the last 3 holes are basically played indoors without a roof.
Right.
The last 3 holes are all surrounded by grandstands that you otherwise, if there was a roof over it, you would just be in an arena.
Yep.
And the concept works at the other venues. There's some reason why it doesn't work in Phoenix. And the biggest reason why it doesn't work is too many people.
Well, it's too many people.
There's just too many people.
The reputation of the event is the purpose of this event is to get
right. It's actually a party where there's a bunch of guys playing golf in the middle of it.
It's what they had to deal with the Preakness years ago.
Correct.
Where everybody knew no one cared about the horse race, but you're never going to be able to get people to care about the horse race. It doesn't work that way. They had to figure out what the line was, but how do we hold the party that people want, and yet at the same time not allow it to be what it became, which was, so debaucherous that it was going to lead to deaths. And that's the reality of what they're facing at this golf tournament, is how do they rein it in so that it's still a fun event? And Preakness has struggled with that over the years. Part of that is because I don't even know what the leadership is. Like, that's been part of the problem. There haven't been people here. The advantage they have out in Phoenix is, like, the people running the thing.
Well, Thunderbirds are awesome.
Are there.
Right.
And are very involved in the community and are listening to people, and they should be able to figure out how to make this work in a way that Preakness never really has, because no one's here. Like, the people who have the responsibility are in Canada or Florida or wherever they are. They don't know anything about this community. They come try to market to D.C. every year because they have nothing. They don't have a clue about how this community works. So they've never really figured it out. They've had moments where things were popular or interesting, but they haven't consistently been able to figure out how to do an event that's both a fun event that people will enjoy, allows there to be an amount of a party, and yet also doesn't, traipse into the dangers levels that it was traipsing into years ago. They've never fully perfected that. They haven't made it. It's fine. Preakness is fine, but they've never been able to get it to what they want, and maybe that's because they're trying to wait until there's a new track, and then they'll figure out what this should look like at some point. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing there, because, again, they're not here to talk to us about it. But I think they'll figure it out.
It's a very fair comparison. I mean, the Preakness was wildly out of hand.
Right. It was very unpopular.
The difference, I guess, is what I would say about the environments of the two pieces of property. You can show all of the Preakness, meaning if you're, I guess, ABC or NBC carries it, you can show the race and never once have to mention or allude to the infield. It's not part and parcel of the race. You see what I'm saying?
They don't have to. They typically do, but to your point, you don't have to. Right.
But what happens on the infield doesn't impact the race at all, unless you're like that one year where the guy jumped out and punched a horse.
Right.
But what goes on the infield doesn't connect at all with the race. What goes on at the 16th hole absolutely connects with the golf tournament.
Correct.
And now, this year, you saw Billy Horschel and Zach Johnson and Jordan Spieth. Now what's happening is it has now spread out because you can't get to 16 now. If you don't get there until noon, you can't even get into 16.
Not a chance.
Now you got to go to 15 and 14 and 13 to heckle. So now it is now.
Oh, to the point the players are willing to put up with it when there's one hole. Like, hey, it's
Correct.
all good, right? This is part of the deal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now they're not.
Yep.
If I got to walk through that thing and go to 16T and hit a 150-yard shot in front of 27,000 of you screaming and throwing beer at me, I'll do it I'll do it 4 times a year.
Right.
Meaning Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday if I make the cut. What I'm not going to do is play the whole back 9 with you heckling me when I'm trying to make $1.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that.
Good. Yep.
Yeah.
No.
And as much as people who don't golf want to poo-poo the whole quiet and all of that stuff, it is part and parcel of the sport for you in the 2.1 seconds that you're actually playing golf. It is important for there to be some decorum among people. It's one thing if there's background noise, and it was a very new experience for me when I played in the U.S. Senior Open, playing in front of those many people. I'd never done it before.
Right.
And the forks and knives rattling around in the skyboxes and the doors slamming and people
somewhere in the
and
right.
airplanes flying over and people talking while you're like, that was certainly new to me. It wasn't new to Bernard Langer or Retief Goosen. It was new to me.
And
but
otherwise you would have won.
Yeah, right. I was close. Yeah. But it's not easy for those guys to do it and play at the level of which, to which they believe they're capable of playing when you have people 25 feet from them heckling them. It is not easy for them to do it. And it might be easy for you to do it as a basketball player because you're used to it.
That's part of it, 100%. Because somebody would say,
and baseball.
These guys go up to knock down free throws all the time where they have people stripping their clothes off in front of them.
They are used to it.
It's what they do.
You're not used to it in golf. But anyway, they're in this. They're going to need to do something.
Yeah, and they are aware of it. It's a major story out there. It's something
they're not ignoring it.
It won't be this. Now, what it'll be, and this is the problem, right? When Preakness made the decision they made, there was an immediate blow.
Well, they went from black to white.
Correct. There was no.
they just went from come in and get S-faced and run around to
no one will do.
Come in with your hands tied behind your back.
100%. And there was an immediate pushback. There was an immediate.
Well, they went from 120,000 to 60,000 in one
something
fell
like
swoop.
that in 1 year. Now they got it back. In fact, for a couple of years, or 140, they had the highest attendance they ever had after they figured out. And again, this is when they still had some people locally. They still had some people in this market that had a feel for what should we do, how do we make this work, how do we make this an event that people will still want to go to, and yet not be the thing that it was before.
Yeah, let them have fun, but you can't. If I'm going to go to the bathroom, I can't have beer cans thrown at me.
Correct. What a concept.
Right.
And they had the highest attended Preakness ever. I was just pulling it up to find out it was in 2017, well after they banned beer.
I remember on the air, you and I, we got some grief for essentially siding with the Maryland Jockey Club on this, and we got some grief because I would say to people like, you're
throwing beers, you're throwing cans of beer at people's heads.
Right.
How do you not how separated are we from reality?
Right. Where that's acceptable.
We're just like, hey, dude, well, that's the way it goes. Like, no, it doesn't just go that way.
Right.
Somebody has to step up and say, that can't happen. We can't do it that way. We can't just say that's collateral damage. Right. Well, this is our event. You got to deal with
that. You came to the infield.
Right. No.
You had to know you were getting shot in the face.
Correct.
With a gun.
That's the way it works.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Somebody has to be an adult in the room. And it was crazy that it was me that was choosing to be an adult in the room, considering, I was the guy that was out there doing
Right.
But, we have to be able to say, no. Now, again, they got it wrong the first time. They screwed it up.
Yeah, they went from 80 miles an hour to 0 miles
They wanted
an hour.
They wanted you to be in a library.
But it also was probably they probably had a focus group or a special interest group say to them, you guys can try to go from 80 to 40.
Right.
You should just go from 80 to 0.
And then
go back to 40.
Let's go back the other way.
Right.
And when they did, they actually came up with an event, and the Mug Club concept, while it had problems, right? And a lot of people that went would say, that wasn't worth it for me. The lines were insanely long. I never got it. But what you charged me for a ticket and said, hey, the trade-off is you can drink all day. Well, I couldn't drink all day. I got 2 beers because I couldn't get up there to get the beer. It still had problems, but it was good enough, and bringing in, higher level musical acts that made people say, this is a party I still want to go to. And again, you had the highest attendant Preakness ever after they banned you bringing in your own alcohol. They figured out a way to make it work. And then, things kind of went off the rails from there. They got problems with track. They got leadership issues. Nobody's here in Maryland to actually govern the thing. There's a lot of other issues they faced. And, frankly, they don't care about having as many people there anymore. It's something that they won't say out loud, but they have stopped being concerned about the actual attendance of the Preakness. They want higher-end people. They don't want me, Griffin. Sorry, no offense. They just don't care anymore. Like, they realized that one day. They were like, yeah, we'd rather just have rich people. If we have 50,000 rich people, that's better for us than having 100,000 poor people. And they won't say that out loud. You're not allowed to say that out loud. But they're not the only
I would say that, and no one asked, but if they put me, if they put me in a group to say, like, we want to fix this or change this or et cetera, my first thing would be, tell me what you care about.
Right.
What do you care about? Do you care about the handle?
Mm-hmm.
Do you care about the racing? Do you care about, and those two kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
Do you care about no one getting hurt?
Right.
Do you care about selling alcohol? Like, what do you care about? What matters? And don't tell me what matters, like what you want the public to think matters. Let's be honest. In the room, what do you want? Do you want, this? The Ravens, I think, go through this a lot, right? With they're making $220 million now. They used to make $15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're making I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to Steve. I'm sure Steve cares that they didn't beat the Chiefs. Steve's got $220 million.
He's going to be okay. He's going to sleep all right.
When he was only making $15 million,
yeah,
quote unquote, it hurt him when they lost.
Yep. Because that was more money to be made. Yeah,
I don't think Steve cares that much anymore.
Look,
honestly.
there is still more money to be made.
But I don't think Steve cares.
Yeah.
It
would almost be weird if he did.
Not sure I would.
Right.
Right.
So
tell us if you're running this race. Tell us what you care about.
Right.
Do you want people there?
Right.
Is that what you want? Because if you do, we could solve that.
Right.
Just charge people $5 to get in.
Correct.
And $2 for beers.
You'll get lots of people there. They would tell you that's not what they care about.
Correct.
They would say, we care about a certain type of people being here.
No problem.
That's what we care about.
Okay. So now here we go.
Yep.
Let's figure this out.
Yep.
You want people in. You want Natalie attired, well-to-do, T-Row Price people coming to the horse race.
And to be fair,
somebody
will hear that and say they want white people there. Actually, that's not. They want high end across the board, and they've catered to. We want a more diverse crowd.
Well, go to any casino.
Yep.
And walk around and look at not at the $10 poker table.
Right.
Go sneak your head in and look at where they're playing for $500 a hand or more.
Yep.
It ain't all white people.
Yep. It's a very diverse. That's what they want. But
I was just there. I wasn't in that room.
They want diversity with money. That's what they want. They want high-end diversity.
And I don't buy, and I still don't buy, and I never bought the whole idea about the location of the track being an impediment for that race. I do buy that and said all along that the track is an impediment and it's the reason why there's no longer racing there.
No, but for the weekend it's fine.
Who cares?
It's one weekend, correct.
You could put the thing in Federal Hill, nobody would care.
Correct.
Like so that's not an excuse. In my lifetime the race has changed dramatically in terms of it used to really be a source of pride for Baltimore. It was a source of pride to have the race in Baltimore when I was in my teens and 20s. It was a source of pride.
Sure.
It's not a source of pride anymore.
I mean, I'd still think
it's just not.
I still think it's pleasant for our city to be shown in a positive light.
But you're almost 40 now. Times have changed for you.
Yes, that part is true.
I'm saying this not disrespectfully. He doesn't. His group of people, Griffin's group of people, it's not a source of pride for them.
But it's not for them anymore. That's the reality. The reality of what they've done is it's not for you.
Right.
It's for a different group of people.
Right. I have never, I mean, I almost feel bad about saying this because I think I should take Ethan. I've never gone to the Preakness with Ethan. And that's it's different for me. You'll see when your kids are 16.
Oh, no.
You start to do stuff like that championship game to me.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
I wanted the Ravens to win, don't get me wrong.
Right,
but in the end, I didn't really care. I was there with my son,
Yep.
and I had never been to an AFC championship game in my life.
Right.
And I got to stand there and do it with my son.
Right.
And
Well,
have
you
a beer
never
with
won
him.
in
And have
Baltimore,
a soft drink with him.
It's not what I heard.
Kidding. Coward Hall, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ethan.
Okay, everybody knows at Calvert Hall it's whiskey.
I'm pretty sure Ethan didn't have a beer. No, I'm saying like you'll see as you get older how these things have a tendency to change. The way you view them.
No. I've already started.
And I would like for us as a community,
right,
including people of Griffin's age, to view it as on this day.
Mm-hmm.
You've been to if you've never been to Churchill Downs for the Derby, you're not going to know what what I'm about to say. You're not going to understand it. You will, because you've been. I've been. If you live in that community on the first Saturday in May, what do you do?
That's part of it. It is their event. It is their
You go
patronage.
to the Derby.
Oddly, the Friday is a bigger day for
them.
But
you
that weekend, there is no making plans. Everything is centered around this is our event, this is our thing, this is who we are as a people.
Correct.
Now, we are a different type of people. Jerry Eisenberg wrote the greatest column that's ever been written about in the history, and he's from New York, and he wrote something about Baltimore that's better than what most people from Baltimore have written about Baltimore, which is in Louisville it's a fairy tale. In Baltimore it's a horse race. We are just a different type of. You can't tell us something is perfection when we know it's not. Like, we know it's a horse race. We know you're trying to profit off of. There's no the civic galvanizing factor of it. Well, you're not giving the tickets away. You're charging a boatload of money for the tickets, and we don't have an obligation to help you profit. Like, we just think a different way.
And here's the other thing. Horse racing matters.
Yeah, that's a different 100%.
We don't have horse racing here anymore.
We don't care about it. We just
right.
It doesn't.
We used to. They used to put the races up on Channel 13 at night.
Yep. We don't.
So it is different.
Yep. 100%. It's different. All right. Hour number 1 of today's show
I've used
is
the bathroom.
in the books. Wonderful. There's Drew Forrester.
I'll be back.
We take commercial breaks, Drew's here. Today's show, Griffin, quickly tell everybody what's going on at the Green Turtle tomorrow, if you don't mind.
At the Green Turtle, they're offering something pretty cool right now and for the foreseeable future. If you don't know, the Green Turtle has added sports betting, and now every Thursday at the Green Turtle Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, they're offering you a free $10 bet on whatever you would like. You can experience the ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting right now. And so go check out the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. Pick up your free bet and make some money while enjoying some sports and food tomorrow night.
It is time for our first NFL draft segment of the season. Joining us now, he is a longtime friend of ours, a man who loves Led Zeppelin more than he even loves the NFL draft. He's now with Sportskeeda. He is Mr. Tony Pauline, and he's back with us here on GCR. Tony, it's Glenn and Drew in Baltimore. It's always great to catch you up. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me. Led Zeppelin's one of the few things in life that never disappoints me, so that's why they'll always be number one with me.
I fully understand. Tony, I was looking at your post-Super Bowl mock draft, and I want to get into Darius Robinson, but more than that, I just want to talk about one of the problems we have whenever we talk about the draft right now is that, we still don't know what a team's needs are fully going to be because there's free agency. They've got to make decisions about their own guys, things like that. What would the best need be to have if you're picking 30th in the draft? What's the area where it looks like it's going to be deep, end of the first round, early second round?
Offensive line, whether it be interior offensive line, whether it be offensive tackle, you're going to be able to get some good offensive linemen literally through, the end of the first round into that second day period. So, players like Jordan Morgan, maybe of Arizona, maybe Troy Fatanu of Washington. There's going to be a lot of good offensive linemen there. And that is the need to have if you're drafting at the bottom of the first round. But as we know, the draft is 7 rounds, and you can be able to get good players at those positions in day 2, day 3 as well.
So let me ask it this way. If you were a team that was maybe considering the fact that Ronnie Stanley is going to cost you a lot of money and he's barely been on the field and You could designate him for post-June 1st and have some savings there. Is there a world in which you could find your next left tackle holding the 30th pick in the NFL draft?
Potentially. I mean, Kingsley Suamatea of BYU, who played well at the Senior Bowl. He was a right tackle at BYU who switched to the left side, had a lot of success this year. Still rough around the edges. He's still going to need some time to develop his game. I think he's more of a second-round prospect, but he plays that all-important left tackle position. I think he's a guy where there may be some bumps in the road early in his career. But if you're looking at that position for the future, that is a guy you look to. And the other guy I mentioned was Troy Fautanu of Washington. He's a little bit shorter. He's got shorter arms. So if you're stuck on the metrics of the measurables, you're not going to like him. And the Ravens usually like taller tackles. But still, he was a terrific left tackle for Michael Penix, who's not the world's most mobile quarterback. He's athletic. I like him as his own blocking guard, but there may be some teams that say, you know what, we're going to try him at left tackle and leave him there until he proves otherwise.
So with the 30th pick, you have the Ravens going with Darius Robinson from Missouri. I think that edge rush is a huge need for the Baltimore Ravens. We don't know if Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy are going to be back, and even what you can expect from them a year after they kind of surprised everyone, and none of the young edge rushers have really stepped up for the Baltimore Ravens. How deep is it? Like, walk me through Darius Robinson versus, say, like Braylon Trice from Washington, some of the other players that are considered first, second round. How deep is that group, and why does Robinson stand out for you?
Well, because I think he's a good system fit as far as a 3-4 defensive lineman. I think he's got an incredible body. He's sort of like Sui Matata in the sense that he's got great upside, and he's going to need some time. I never had him as a first-round pick, but when I was at the Senior Bowl, as the week went on, all I heard about him was first round. I got to do a lot more film work on him, but he's got great upside potential. I mean, he is an imposing, Adonis-looking sort of defensive lineman, if you will, and I think he can play in a three-man front. I mean, if you're looking more for a pure pass rusher, the guy who you just mentioned, Braylon Trice, is probably a better fit.
Okay.
Or a better pick as far as a pure pass rusher at that 30th selection. You mentioned you don't know what team needs are, and these mock drafts are kind of, they're for the fans. I mean, that's basically what they are. They're not really legitimate at this point in time. You also have the combine. So Braylon Trice goes to the combine, and he lays down an egg. He can't run under 4.75, and his testing numbers are terrible. He's going to drop. So, there's a lot of things that go into Chris Braswell of Alabama,
Baltimore native,
who I feel is a second-round prospect, but he's a tremendous edge rusher. He's an incredible athlete. He's going to test off the charts at the combine, and while I wouldn't take him at the end of the first round, we've seen some wacky things happen in those last 5 picks of the first round in past years.
He is Tony Pauline, Sportskeeda. He is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio for our first NFL draft segment of the year. I want to go to the wide receivers. Tony, we thought the Ravens had wide receiver figured out a year ago, but now there's some question about Odell Beckham's future, and, of course, there's a huge question mark given the off-the-field stuff related to Zay Flowers. So I think you have to talk about wide receiver again. I know Troy Franklin from Oregon is one of the names that's being brought up late in the draft. I know he wasn't there. You also didn't have Keon Coleman going in the first round. Is that just a fit thing? What do you feel about those wide receivers and what might be there around the 30th pick?
Troy Franklin was actually in my first round going to the Kansas City Chiefs until I saw how horribly the Kansas City Chiefs tackles were. And their left tackle is a free agent. So, if you want Patrick Mahomes to be effective, you better be able to protect him. So that's why I moved Troy Franklin out of the first round. Keon Coleman, Keon Coleman, you got to look at the metamorphosis of the wide receiver position. Case in point, Zay Flowers. You no longer have to be 6'2.5", 215 pounds. You no longer have to run in a low 4.3. You got to be a good route runner, and you got to be able to separate through your routes, and you got to be able to find the open spot in the field. So a guy like Keon Coleman, while people love his highlights, and he's had some great highlights, when you really watch the film, he struggles getting separation through his routes, and he drops a lot of contestable passes, which is a major red flag to me. If, once again, the Baltimore Ravens are going to look at receiver in the first round, which is ironic if not historic, right? A guy to consider if he's there would be Brian Thomas of LSU. I just don't know if he's going to be there. I happen to like Adonai Mitchell of Texas a lot. He was great as a freshman at Georgia, got banged up his sophomore year, but when he was on the field, he was terrific. Had a really good year at Texas this season with Quinn Ewers. You know, people talk about Xavier Worthy. Adonai Mitchell is the more complete receiver, bigger guy who runs good routes. I mean, if they want to go receiver, if Brian Thomas is there, that's the guy they got to go with. I don't think he's going to be there, but I think they will have some options with a variety of pass catchers.
One thing that jumped out at me in going through your mock draft, we get to this time every year, and everybody's, of course, all the conversation about the draft is related to the quarterbacks, and you hear people say things like, boy, there could be 6 quarterbacks that all go in the first round. You don't think that's going to prove to be the case?
I mean, I had 3 in my first round. I could see 4. I don't see it going more than 4. Bo Nix and Michael Penix did not do what they had to do at the Senior Bowl to prove that they are first-round picks. And people will say, well, you keep referring to Senior Bowl. You know, look at history, whether it's Phillip Rivers, whether it's Mac Jones. I can go on and on and on about quarterbacks that just had brilliant Senior Bowl weeks and boosted their draft stock in the first round. Neither Penix nor Bo Nix did that. Maybe J.J. McCarthy ends up in the first round, but I have a lot of issues with his game as far as being a next-level prospect. I mean, I think if there's a 4th quarterback selected, it's because a team in the bottom of the first round trades up to get one of the signal callers. But none of these signal callers are, after your top 3,
right?
None of those signal callers grade as true first-round picks. Doesn't mean they're not going to go in the first round. Just means they're not true first-round selections.
I understand that. And, of course, we've seen over the years some guys the teams maybe regretted going. You don't think there's any, like, real the conversation that comes up every year, and it always seems like it's subterfuge, whether somebody really should be the number 1 overall pick. You really do think it's a slam dunk that it's Caleb Williams?
I think so. I mean, you know, there's some momentum for Justin Fields to stay there. But, I mean, what has Justin Fields proven 3 years into his tenure with the Bears, except for he may be better next year? I mean, he hasn't really proven that much. And I think the specter of passing on a guy like Caleb Williams is sticking with Justin Fields. I mean, if you do that and Justin Fields never progresses and Caleb Williams turns out to be a terrific number 1 quarterback, which is still a bit of a question, you know, that's how careers are ruined.
I understand that. I completely get it. All right, the other area that's interesting to me, Tony, is if the Ravens – running back is a complete question mark for the Ravens right now. Both J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are free agents. Justice Hill's a nice player, but certainly I don't think they would be comfortable with him as a featured back. I wonder if later on in the draft there's somebody, particularly the Edwards role, because I think everybody's really excited about Keaton Mitchell and if he comes back healthy, the role that he could take on moving forward with the Ravens. But the Gus Edwards role, is there a back later on in the draft that would make sense as the between the tackles goal line to go if the Ravens simply say, in the Lamar Jackson contract era, we can't give any money at all to running backs. We're going to have to keep drafting them?
Well, I mean, any back that you take in this draft is going to be later on. There's only one back I have that's got a second-round grade, Blake Corum of Michigan, and he's probably going to go in the 3rd round. It's more – this year's running back class is more a bunch of situational ball carriers. There's no true dominant number 1. Now, as far as what you're talking about, I mean, if you want to go in the 3rd round, Jace McClellan out of Alabama, who's a bigger between the tackles, short yardage, goal line ball carrier, who's also an outstanding pass catcher out of the backfield. Day 3, Braylon Allen of Wisconsin, who I know a lot of people have him as a day 2 pick, but I look at Braylon Allen, and he's basically that one-dimensional type of back that, you know, you were referring, you know, the Ravens may need in the sense that he's strictly a between-the-tackles, downhill power ball handler. I mean, if you want to go later on, maybe Isaiah Davis of South Dakota State in the 5th round, you'll be able to get that type of back. I mean, Gus Edwards, he wasn't even drafted, was he? I mean, and look what he's turned into.
Yep.
You'll be able to get that type of back later on in the draft. And again, there's no dominant, number 1. There's not even a top 60 back in this draft. So all these backs are going to go 3rd, 4th, and 5th round.
All right. Before I let you go, Tony, I'm just going to ask it very generically. How good is this year's draft?
I think it's solid. I think what happened is, like last year, we were expecting it to be much better. And again, what's going to happen is the outside media is going to love it because of the quarterbacks at the top of the draft. And I happen to like the quarterbacks at the top of the draft. I am usually very cool on the quarterbacks. I take a step back. These three guys, I actually like. They're different types of quarterbacks, but I like their games a lot. Media's going to go crazy over it. And the thing about it, compared to the last couple of years' drafts, is where the past 2 years it was a defensive draft at the top. Now you're looking at offense. In fact, there may not be a defensive player selected in the top 10. And if there is, it's only going to be one. It's going to be the quarterbacks. It's going to be the wide receivers. It's going to be the offensive tackles. I think overall what happened is you had so many players go back to school for another year for their second senior year, and the NIL, those NIL deals made it so attractive for those underclassmen to go back and play another year and collect $2 million or $3 million in an NIL deal. It's kind of watered down this year's draft. What's going to happen is, a little foresight is, next year's draft is going to be stacked because that COVID year is out of the equation. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you're going to have all these six-year seniors and the fifth-year seniors and the fourth-year seniors. So next year's draft, it's going to, I don't know, it's going to be stacked at the top, but you're going to have a lot of quality in the middle rounds.
At Tony Pauline is how you follow him. Sportskeeda is where you can find all of his stuff. And, of course, we'll link up his mock draft on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio. Tony, anything else we can plug for you, sir?
Our mock draft simulator at Sportskeeda. I know, you talk about the mock drafts, and people like to get involved in the mock drafts. We've got a great mock draft simulator at Sportskeeda. Be careful because it's addictive. Once you get on it, you can't get off of it. Yeah. You can go 3 rounds. You can go 7 rounds. You can make trades. You can do it as fast or as slow as you like. And, if you like mock drafts, here's your chance to kind of match wits against the geniuses who make the decisions in NFL war rooms. Yeah,
I did it last night, Tony, knowing you were come on, and I traded out of the first round, and the Ravens took Braylon Trice in the second round, and I came away with both Braylon Trice and Braylon Allen, so it was a big night for me last night. I had a lot going on in my life. My wife was very proud of me.
You should call the Ravens, and maybe they'll hire you, and that sounds like a pretty good draft there.
Tony, always appreciate you, man. We'll look forward to doing this again as we get a little bit closer to the draft. Thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's Tony Pauline with us here on GCR for our first NFL draft segment. Drew's still here.
You're nuts.
What?
It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, what about it? I did it last night.
No one cares about the draft.
Well, because we care about what? Rom-coms?
I don't know if you know there's not Tigers playing in the Genesis this week.
Yeah, that's sure your wife's very excited about that. All right, when we come back in, Paul Rabil is going to join us. A lot of women would like him to be their Valentine. He's very handsome. He'll check in with us.
Oh, I thought you were saying me. I'm like,
no.
What?
No, not that.
Yeah, I got some very pressing questions for Paul.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's going to get interesting.
I can't wait. Do that next, Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey, it's Jeremy Kahn. This postseason, bet in person at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks with locations in Canton and in Towson, and enjoy the best in-class sports wagering experience at their state-of-the-art facilities, bringing an unmatched sports betting thrill.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover your next favorite beer crafted in the heart of Charm City. At Guilford Hall Brewery, we believe beer should be flavorful and easy to enjoy. Our meticulously crafted lagers and ales are derived from centuries-old European brewing traditions, a staple for both the seasoned beer aficionado or a novice hophead. Experience beer styles that dare to showcase the exceptionality of simplicity. Visit our restaurant and brewery at 1611 Guilford Avenue or view our menu and tap map online at guilfordhall.com. Guilford Hall Brewery, European tradition, Baltimore charm.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of special specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. Drew is here, drewsmorningdish.com. Would You Rather Wednesday is brought to you by Glory Days Grill, where you can find Goose Flights Lager, all 7 of the Glory Days Grill locations in the state of Maryland, carrying cans of Goose Flights Lager. You can also get cans at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton, as well as at Alonzo's on Cold Spring Lane. You can find cans and 6-packs at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North, and the Costas Inn in Dundalk, 6-packs and cases at the Wine Source in Hamden. Cool thing about Goose Flights Lager, it's not just a delicious beer, but on top of that, $1.98 from every can sold goes to benefit the Goose Flights Foundation, as Tony Siragusa's family has continued his vision and his legacy, providing non-emergency medical transport for those in need. If you want to check out the list of everywhere it's available, go to PressBoxOnline.com/GooseFlights. Enjoy yourself a Goose Flights Lager today. Starting tonight, down just outside D.C., the PLL Championship Series gets underway. Always a pleasure to catch up with our next guest, of course, the co-founder of the PLL, former Hopkins star, and our buddy, Mr. Paul Rabil. Paul, it's Glenn. Drew Forrester is here with me today. It's always great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
See you guys, of course. It's always my pleasure.
Man,
fired up for the games tonight.
Yeah, I know. Look, it's a bummer that the Whip Snakes aren't involved in this thing, and I start with that because, like, we know that part of what makes this event now even more important is the fact that lacrosse has been approved for the Olympics, and we know it's going to be the sixes format. I wonder if, like, has the rest of the league said, hey Paul, kind of, we'd like to participate in this thing too, because we want to show USA Lacrosse that, like, we can play this style of lacrosse as well. It's a big deal for us.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn, when we announced that Maryland was going to get the Whip Snakes, you and I did a show, and couldn't be more thrilled to bring a professional lacrosse team back to my hometown and home state, and different than any other pro team across any major sport, being able to capture the entire DMV into Annapolis and to Baltimore, I think is pretty cool. We built our championship series in anticipation of getting into the Olympics, which was announced last October. That's why we did sixes. It's a version of the game. I think it's the most exciting and most understandable for a non-lacrosse fan, because it's just like hoops, back and forth. We also took a page out of the Champions League in Europe, and the way to qualify is finish in the top 4. So it creates, during our regular season, some additional debate and excitement as you get to the back part of the regular season schedule, where the top 2 teams are fighting to secure a bye, like the NFL. The bottom 2 teams are fighting to make the playoffs, and the middle 2 teams are fighting to qualify for the Champ Series.
I get it. I just imagine everybody else wants to be a part of it. I really do wonder.
Not good enough.
No,
Not good
it's
enough.
Paul. I'm not telling you how to run your business. You got that figured out. I'm not that. I just really do imagine that there are guys that are like, I want to be a part of this thing, and how do I get my shot to show that I can play this? It's such a different world, right? Like I'm sure you've been thinking about that. I don't know how else. The guys that are playing for the Whips. I don't know how, these guys.
Well, they got to finish it. They got to finish in the top four.
There you go. That's your answer.
So that'll be good. I mean, the Whips have won 2 PLL championships out of our 5 seasons. So they're perennial. I think they finished just outside of the top 4 this past season. But honestly, the other thing that I'll mention that, Glenn, is as Sixes gets more and more popular, especially internationally, right? 3.5 billion people are going to watch it in 2028, right? As it gets more popular, I think our championship series will extend and get bigger, and it's possible that all 8 teams will come in a few years to sort of accentuate that growth. But what I want to keep is Sixes, obviously our summer 10s, and so you have 2 properties on opposing sides of the calendar that different teams show up better than others. One of the best players, I think, in Sixes format is Romar Dennis. He plays for the Redwoods.
Yeah.
He won the Golden Stick last year before he was traded to the Redwoods when he played for Atlas.
He's a specimen.
I mean, he'll score 20, 30 goals over the course of this week. And so that's an exciting part and a differentiator because he didn't have that many all season in the summer.
Of course, I had him at Loyola. That guy is a beast, man. He is he's the definition of a hoss, like a unit, man.
So, Paul, here's a question for you. I'm going to go back to my old days in the indoor soccer business. Obviously, the indoor game, the outdoor game were dramatically different, same as in lacrosse. But what we found over time was certain outdoor players didn't necessarily make good indoor players, and obviously some indoor skills you could kind of translate to outdoor, and some indoor guys wound up going to MLS because the indoor game helped their skill. Is there any correlation between the Sixes and the, air quotes here, the regular lacrosse that we've all grown up with, that you can say, hey, this kid might not have been a great regular lacrosse player, but boy, his skill set fits really nice when the field's more open or bigger?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great call out. So I actually agree with you and have studied football quite a bit. So outdoor and indoor, or even futsal in Brazil. And you know what indoor does, or what Sixes does, is it creates a smaller environment in both soccer and lacrosse where there are more touches of the ball. So you develop different sort of intricate skills. That sometimes makes its way and applies well to the field game. But not all the time. And the flip side is on the field side of lacrosse, the field's larger, obviously, and the shots have more range. The athleticism, I think, from your pace and your agility, you could sort of create opportunity there on a bigger pitch, much like in soccer. So the two aren't one-to-one in that way, which makes it exciting. But I think indoor helps you develop into a better outdoor player, and the best, call it skill-based players, the guys who I think, frankly, upstairs have that scoring mentality. They do really well in the Olympic format.
You didn't need a whole lot of help as a player, but would would a 20-year-old Paul Rabil have benefited from Sixes?
A 35-year-old Paul Rabil would have benefited from Sixes. Definitely when I was 20 and 25. I mean, I grew up playing hoops in the DMV. Went to DeMatha, so the basketball was in the water there, and I think the format for me would have been great because I like to get up and down, shoot on the run. I like to cut. So you see, I think, look, 8-minute quarters, and there's about 1.5 times as many possessions as the outdoor game that has 12-minute quarters.
Right. So
it shows you the pace back and forth, which is always fun for a fan.
Right.
By the way, I'm glad you brought up soccer. It reminds me that my career athletic record against Paul Rabil, 1-0.
No penalty kicks or something?
No, halftime soccer.
Was it Baltimore Blast?
Hell yeah, it was. 1-0 all-time against Paul Rabil. Kicked his ass. Actually,
it was livid, actually. I remember being pissed off about that.
Have you Paul, I had talked to you before as a long time ago back in another life when I was on the radio. Have you figured out the business part of this yet to where you're satisfied? Meaning, I know it was always a discussion, right? Lacrosse players never got paid enough. They always had to work 2 jobs. It wasn't that dissimilar to indoor soccer in my old days.
Right.
And then you came up with the vision for this league, which your hope, I know, was to have these guys be able to make a real, true living at lacrosse and also be paid commensurate with what their skill sets were when compared to other athletes. Where are you on that journey?
We are very pleased with our journey thus far. There's been 200 leagues, most people don't know, started since 1990 in America with a 1% success rate. And that is designated by lasting longer than 3 years, which most leagues don't. They turn over.
Right.
So we've built a sustainable model, but I'm not satisfied. I want to become a top 5 team sports league in North America. Much like how you mentioned arena soccer, but also MLS struggled to get players,
sure,
sort of elevated wages for its first 10 years. We have immediately financed that. So our players, we're getting 4 or 5 times, in some cases, 10 times what I was getting when I was playing in MLL. They have healthcare, they have stock options in the league, which is the tip of the cap to what I believe, the pioneers of the NFL would have loved to have had, knowing that their wages were far, far lower than what Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson's getting today. So we try to study the entire business. And then related to, the evolution of our league, we were tour-based so that we could control cost, optimize for network partnership, and frankly, had a practical view on the total lacrosse audience size. I mean, it's not as big as football or basketball in America, but it's getting there. There's now 45 million lacrosse fans, according to MRI Simmons. So from the business standpoint, we are still touring because it's been advantageous for us. But now that our 8 teams have home cities, you could anticipate a future where they own venues, we joint venture with other league owners on venue ownership, or those teams, I should say, end up in markets for a traditional home and away schedule.
Is Paul Rabil. Again, the PLL Championship Series is this week at the St. James and across the ESPN networks. And then, as Paul brings up, the Maryland Whipsnakes will be at home the weekend of August 2nd through the 4th, playing a couple of games at Homewood Field. Paul, I wonder what's, in the early going of this, what has that looked like? And you and I talked about the vision for down the road, and I was so encouraged by the timeline that you laid out for when you hope to have this look more like home and away for these teams. As you made the announcements and got the responses from these markets, has that impacted at all what the timeline might look like for when the Maryland Whipsnakes are truly more based here and people operating out of here and there being more of a home and away schedule?
Yeah, when you and I talked, I remember we were putting the sort of the marker around the Olympics, 27, 28. What we've seen early are indications that our fans and our players are invested in their markets and are really excited about it. I mean, there was a fight that broke out during a scrimmage last night between the Cannons and the Water Dogs, and all of a sudden it became Boston, Philly. Because people can they know what that DNA is like. And so that's cool to see. And then the other piece, Glenn, is we've had a number of, call them NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball owners come knocking on our door since announcement and saying, hey, we want a team. And so that could be it is a leading indicator, but it could also be a forcing mechanism for pace.
Wow. Does that impact like the idea of expansion? Does it impact I don't know what's practical. Like, I mean, this is, is it possible that before we get to those dates that there's 4 more teams and 4 more markets?
It's possible. I would say we want to continue to develop as much pound for pound punch as we can when pro lacrosse is on any size screen. And the expansion is a path to be taken more seriously, I would say, if we have individual owners with teams, because it's essentially a liquidation event. As you bring in more teams, the owners sort of split their share of a franchise fee. And then you also get more tonnage on network, you get more sponsorship opportunities, so national revenues grow. Given that we're tour-based, having 8 teams really works well because we do 4 games per stop. But I would say, we will be expanding. It's a matter of when versus if.
The home field, of course, I know how much Homewood Field means to you. I know how important it is. I also know that when we talked, you brought up the idea that markets could be looking at lacrosse-specific stadiums, and we get the advantage, right? We saw that with MLS. You get to own the parking revenue. You get to own the concession revenue. There's huge advantages to that. How much specifically for our market are you weighing those things, like the importance that the PLL is playing at Homewood Field because it's the home of lacrosse, right? Like it is the hallowed ground. It's Fenway Park. It's whatever you want to call it versus that interest in maybe owning your own facility.
Yeah, I mean, look, both are really interesting to us. We will be, as part of our home teams in these homecoming weekends that we're playing, we'll be dressing up the venues as if it feels like the Maryland Whipsnake Stadium. So we've negotiated that into our leases. So that'll look different than in years past where you come to a PLL weekend. Now you're coming to a Maryland Whipsnakes weekend, and that's why the home team plays twice on both days. Cool. So there's always a home game. Related to the Baltimore market, related to more widely Maryland, we're already having conversations. We're familiar with the venues that are being built on the other side of the harbor. We're looking at even as far out as what Ted Leonsis and his group is looking to do in Northern Virginia with Monumental Sports. So that there's a lot of interest in real estate development around sports teams and leagues. So we need to get as smart as possible on it. And then I think we have some pretty good plans around what a lacrosse-specific stadium might look like.
Paul, there's so many synergies. It's amazing. To my days in indoor soccer, I was there from 1981 through 1998, and in the infancy of the league and the infancy of the Blast. And then, fun fact is I was actually the stick boy for Maryland Lacrosse when Arlie Marshall was the coach way back in the old days, like D'Arcangelo and Grebe and all those guys.
Don't get him started about his time as play-by-play guy at Hopkins.
That's right. One year.
Yeah.
One year with the great Jeff Cook. But the thing that I go back to in the old days of like Maryland Lacrosse and Mount Washington, what you may or may not know because it was way before your time, these guys were superstars in the lacrosse community, and there was no real pro league then. And I think the challenge for lacrosse has always been, how do we take it from a spectator sport, from a participation sport to a spectator sport? To me, and now if I'm wrong, tell me, but I think that's always been your challenge, right? And the more 100%. Of these people you get to play, the better your chances are of turning them into ticket buyers at some point, I would assume.
Yeah. I talked to Adam Silver about participation to fandom because he's a phenomenal commissioner and student of our business. And we look at, for example, dwindling participation in contact football. Virtually no participation in mixed martial arts, yet the NFL and the UFC continue to climb in attendance and viewership and such. So on one side of the coin is, look, we're in the business of sports. That means we're in the business of entertainment.
Right.
And we need to be able to attract non-lacrosse participation into our fan circles. All that said, you're right. And this is what Adam says. You're 3 times more likely to buy a car if you test drive it. So the NBA is still trying to get basketballs in the hands of everyone around the world because then they are 3 times more likely to watch the NBA. Mm-hmm. I feel the same way. That's why we have a 501c3 that works with a number of community organizations, YMCA, Boys and Girls Clubs. We put goals on field. We put sticks in hands. We want to get people familiar with the game, thereby more likely to watch it. I would say, I studied indoor soccer quite a bit, as I have the UFC and F1 and the Premier League and the NFL and the NBA. To your point,
I can tell you all the mistakes that indoor soccer made. If you ever want to get coffee, I'll tell you all of them.
I'm totally down. I have a thirst for learning as much as possible. So none of those leagues, the NFL struggled for relevance in the early 1900s. It was all college. The NBA really struggled up to the 80s. They had a horrible reputation. Different reasons, NFL versus NBA. And if you take MLS, their biggest challenge was European football.
Yeah, getting the players, right.
Yeah?
Yep.
So they're not the primary league. So for us, the advantage is we are the thing. We have the best players in the world. If you're interested in seeing the best players in the world play professional lacrosse, boom, no matter where you are in the world. So beyond that, it's getting people familiar with the game at the pro level. It's getting them excited about the game at the pro level. It's like a full suite of marketing. I think it's about branding the league well, marketing its players, getting great network deals like we have with ESPN that gives us exposure. I mean, the thing that I'll say to this, Drew, is we are hoping, and now heading into our 3rd year out of 4 with ESPN, to continue to get great coverage across their shoulder programming, additionally on social. That's the type of the stuff that they did for the UFC 10 years ago. Because now all of a sudden they're the ones that are putting the megaphone to their mouth and shouting about professional lacrosse.
Well, man, I got to tell you, I don't know that you need a pat on the back, but you're doing it right, and I think you realize this. It is a total marathon, man. It is not a sprint, and soccer is a great blueprint for this because 40 years ago when the NASL was failing, you would have never thought we were going to have 2 World Cups in my lifetime. And I would have lost the bet on MLS. I was in the soccer business, and when they talked about MLS, I said, it will never work. And now they're getting $250 million for a franchise. So it just takes time and smarts, and you got to be willing to think outside the box a little bit. And I think you're doing all those things.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're constantly innovating and enhancing things like our broadcast. So fans will see tonight, our first game's at 5:30 on ESPN2 of this championship series, and it's the Redwoods of Cannon, so you have California and Boston. They'll see tonight what we call as a jib camera, essentially a sky cam. So you have this crane that like shoots out over the field and has a camera with a gimbal on it. It's going to give a really unique point of view in addition to the 7 game cams. And then we're going to take a page out of the old XFL book, believe it or not. And we've been working with one of our great athlete camera operators. We call it the RF cam, but essentially it's what sports fans have gotten familiar with as the 8K during other broadcasts. So he's going to have that and be on field at times. So you literally get this point of view that lacrosse has never seen. So being able to do some innovative stuff like that will only help, in my opinion, engage more lacrosse fans and bring non-lacrosse fans in.
PremierLacrosseLeague.com to find out more about the championship series. Get down to the St. James this weekend, or as Paul mentioned, the ESPN2, ESPN Plus throughout the course of the weekend for games. And Paul, you know we're going to have to chat again before the book comes out. I can't wait to dive in. May 7th, right, is the release date?
May 7th. Book is out nationwide.
We will make sure that we chat then. My friend, always appreciate you. Can't wait to see what's next, and I know no doubt that we'll be talking again real soon. Thanks for hopping on with us this morning.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Paul Rabil with us here on GCR.
It's pretty amazing the synergies between the two sports, and I do think he's a frontiersman a little bit, and probably exactly what the league needs. Indoor soccer started with 2 business guys, Ed Tepper and Earl Foreman, who were not soccer people at all, but they saw the connection between the indoor arena, no equipment, being able to see the faces of the players, their legs. Honestly, part of the whole thing of the appeal back then of indoor soccer was I'll just call it sexuality, but just the appeal of the male athlete. And they got it right. Now, they made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I think indoor soccer today in some ways is still making a lot of those mistakes, but in some ways they saw those and they moved on. But he's on to something. I think part of it is the format. And hockey would do very, very well to look at this. There is something about the fewer people on the field, the more scoring chances. People always say this. Sport's got to have scoring. It doesn't have to have scoring. What it has to have is scoring chances.
Sure.
That's why the offsides rule in soccer is dumb. It's completely idiotic.
I don't feel as strongly as you do, but I think the punitive way that they use it is insane.
Correct. Yeah, this camera.
There's a fingernail.
It's incredible.
That's not what offsides are
what
supposed
people
to be.
in this country want to see are scoring chances.
Opportunities.
The lacrosse games don't need to be 24-23.
Right. Just action.
Right.
Is what
so I do think he's he's onto that. I think one of the biggest things that helps them more than he said, not because he was ignoring it, is they have the best lacrosse players in the world right here.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally is some kid come out of Canada who's great?
Yep.
Sure. Is there one English kid who turns out to be great?
Australian.
Sure.
Yep.
There was an Indian kid that played at Cornell.
Well, there's been a few.
Right.
Native American.
But,
yes.
Right.
Right.
We have the best players here. And if you even remotely know lacrosse, you know that.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
So he's on. It's a marathon.
We
now.
could talk about this for
Yeah.
hours. We got to get to Kiley McDaniel here, but I understand what you're saying, and my thought process evolved. The touring thing always threw me off. I hated it, but understanding his
I see
vision,
the logic in it.
His vision for this was not a permanent thing.
Right.
This was how we were able to do this in order to get to where we want to be. Changed a lot of my thinking.
Sure.
about the PLL. All right, let's get into some baseball conversation this morning.
I don't even know if we do this because the Orioles are going 110.
Right, yeah,
and
you're not worried about their prospects anymore. I get it. They're
going 100. They're going to win 110 games.
Is the expert for not just prospects, the MLB draft at ESPN, and always appreciate him taking the time for us. As he's got the Orioles once again at number 1, but I think he has some interesting thought processes there. Kiley, it's Glenn and Drew in Baltimore. It's so great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I cannot help you on lacrosse.
No, good.
And you should hear the panic I hear when I do radio interviews in like Toronto, St. Louis, San Diego. They lose their mind every time I go on.
So, Kiley, what's fascinating is I completely understand, and I don't know, you could explain to me more about how your monetary value system works. But I appreciate what you're saying as it leads into some of the things that I have been thinking about recently related to the Orioles. Yes, the Orioles still have the number 1 farm system in all of baseball, in part because Jackson Holiday still counts, but there has to be a recognition that it's starting to come to the downside of that because players have graduated and they're not going to continue to just have this pipeline that's never ending of players to fortify this.
Yeah, and in part that's because of the spots in the big leagues aren't there anymore. So then you start trading guys like Joey Ortiz, where for a lot of teams he'd be their top prospect, or in Milwaukee's case, like a guy that's going to be starting for them on opening day, a team that could make the playoffs. And with Baltimore, he was just like some extra guy that was probably going to sit AAA all year. So like the short version of this is when I was working at Fangraphs, we did not like the idea of Eric Longenhagen and I having to rank farm systems where you just have a list of 30 guys next to a list of 40 guys. And you got to look at both lists and then be like, this one's better than that one. And then just do it 30 times and then, compare each one. And it's just like, it's too many data points. And there's been some, scientific studies that say that the number of data points you can actually hold in your head at one time and compare to another is like somewhere in the single digits. Like that's the reason phone numbers are that length. So the idea that you can contain the multitudes that each player is, all 30 of them, and compare to 30 other ones, much less 29 other ones, is sort of silly. So what we did is we had Craig Edwards, who now works for the Major League Baseball Players Association, go through all the historical top 100s and scale everything to the way that we do prospect rankings, which is the way I still do them at ESPN, and give us a dollar value for each player based on how good that kind of player has been over the last 50 or so years. And it's for the 6 years of control you get before they hit free agency, because after that, it's sort of luck if they stay or not. And so then when each player gets a dollar value, you just add them all up. And the thing to me that was most interesting is if you were to ask, GMs, AGMs, directors of pro scouting, hey, the 50th best player on the top 100, whatever kind of player you think that is, how many of the 250th best player do you think you could get? And they would laugh and be like, like 10 or 12. And the answer is like actually 20 or 25. Like it's even more extreme than you think it is. And so when I'm adding up the numbers of how good the players are monetarily in each farm system, the teams that have guys in the top 50 or 75, that drives like 90% of the value. And so the Orioles having Holiday at 1, all these guys in the top 100 for all these years, that makes it much easier to get to 1. The depth, while their depth is good, the depth doesn't really matter. Those guys are literally $1 and $2 million for your 10 to 12 guy.
So here's it's going to take me a second to ask you this. From the standpoint, and I know there's different positions, obviously, that you're always ranking pitchers, and we'll just call the rest of them field players for lack of a better term. What's the one thing that a prospect, and let's just talk field players for now, what's the one thing a prospect does from a data standpoint that you're now starting to find, because you just said you went back and looked at all these top 100s. What's the one thing in golf right now? Everyone talks about clubhead speed. I'm a golf coach. If a kid comes to me with 120-mile-an-hour clubhead speed, I can make him into a golfer. I don't care where it's going. I'll make him into a player if he's swinging 120 miles an hour. Is there something right now in baseball that equates to that, where if this kid does this, he's going to be a top prospect? And I'll use field players for now.
Yes, actually, if you were to, so there's the guys over at Driveline that are at the kind of cutting edge of this sort of stuff. They have said that the Olympic sports and golf were like ahead of baseball. Because typically when you go to like football and talk about analytics and going for it on fourth down and all that,
right?
They'll say, oh, baseball was way ahead of us. And it turns out those sports are actually ahead of baseball when it comes to dialing this stuff in. So the same company that I'm sure probably with both baseball and golf, you're familiar with TrackMan.
Sure.
Where they'll give you all these data points, every 3 inches, the ball is here, and then it's there, and it's off the club head.
Launch angle,
head,
right.
Yeah, all that stuff started there. That is the stuff that is in every minor league park. They're now coming up with upgraded versions of it. So when you see StatCast in the big leagues, that's now filtering. There are colleges that have it now, where it is TrackMan that gives you the details of the pitched ball and the batted ball, but then now it can map for like 30 times a second where every fielder is and where each of their limbs are pointing and things like that. So you don't have to put a knob on the bat to know how quick a bat is. You can just tell what everyone's bat speed is on every swing and every location, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now that has gotten to a point where only in the last year or two, teams actually know what to do with it. Like a team told me, we had all the StatCast data. We had 3 years of it. We don't know if we can trust it yet. We have all of it. We have all the numbers. We know what we think it means. We don't have enough history to actually make a decision based on it. And this was like 2 or 3 years ago. So that's just now getting to where teams know what to do with it. But that TrackMan data, we've had a version of that for at least 10. It's been in every minor league stadium for like 6 or 7 years now. So we have like a lot of history with that. When I was working for teams in 2011, 2012, we had it then. So the stuff you're looking for primarily with hitters would be exit velocities and, each individual batted ball. Not that big of a deal, but they'll break it down into, and this is like, every single person in an organization will get these sorts of numbers. So they find their way to me or the other prospect rankers. And that is like 90th percentile exit velo. So that's like the top 10% of hardest balls you hit, which is a measure of how hard can you hit it, but then how hard can you hit it often and in the game. So that's usually like the best measure of usable raw power. And then there are some measures that we'll use where they'll classify a ball either in or out of the strike zone. And you can then take how often they swing at those pitches for pitch selection, how often they put the bat on them, even foul balls for bat control. And so you can take those components. That now is like teasing out, going to that second or third level of the TrackMan data. You then can find analogs for what those scouting things are that people have been making decisions based on for 50 years. And that's what I end up using, is give me the automated version of a tool grade. I'll have my own in-person tool grades when I see these guys. I can go on video. I can ask other people, but now we're all sort of speaking the same language.
We used to be hit them where they ain't.
Right.
Now
right,
it's hit it as hard as you can.
Kiley McDaniel with us from ESPN. I do think that's interesting because I would say that one of the discrepancies that people have had at some of the prospect rankers with the Orioles is Basayo 2 or is Mayo 2 right now in the system. You have Mayo 2, and I'm wondering if that's purely because the dude just hits the crap out of the baseball, and there's no way to think that's not translatable.
So the way that I do it is I index it for age, which that assumes that everyone's exit velo goes up the same amount by each year, which is obviously not the case, but it gives you an idea. Basayo is like one of the best for his age group. Like, I think he's already above average for the big leagues as a teenager. So if that was all I was going off of, I would have gone with him. With Mayo, it also comes down to what position you're going to play. If Basayo's not a catcher, he's probably a first baseman. Mayo is either third base with a good shot to stick there, but if he's not there, then he's probably first base. So the defensive value is similar. But for me, it's like one guy's in AAA, and I've known him since he was 16 and has continually gotten better each year and has sort of beat expectations. And Basayo was a somewhat of an afterthought when he signed internationally like 2 or 3 years ago. And the track record of the might swing and miss, has big power, might be a catcher, might be a first baseman, that's littered with a lot of misses, despite how advanced he actually is. So I kind of lean toward the guy with a little more track record, even though his upside is not quite as high. I think the chance that he, becomes a good big leaguer is much higher.
So let me touch on that if I could, because I have heard people suggest that Samuel Basayo could be like the Orioles' next number 1 overall prospect after, obviously, Jackson Holliday is going to graduate very soon here. And I even to the point where it's being talked about, you bring up the Orioles are now dipping into their farm system in order to acquire players and try to take advantage of the opportunity they have now. There's been a suggestion that Samuel Basayo should be the next name that's utterly untouchable for the Orioles, that you can't do that. He is the guy. The way that you're describing him, particularly if he's not going to be a catcher, is he really that guy, or is he just another really good prospect?
Well, I would think of it in terms of, so in basketball, the draft, I think the decision-making process is different than it is in baseball because one star player, if you draft Giannis, it changes your entire franchise. It like doubles the franchise worth. You're in the playoffs every year. And so taking that wild swing for the upside guy is one of those things you kind of have to do, or do at one point, and then once you get Steph Curry, then you can start being a little more conservative. In baseball, you kind of have to have 15 guys to have a playoff team. And some of these guys you can sign in free agency, and some guys you'll get on minor league deals. But like your core guys, you're either trading a lot for, paying a lot for, or drafting them for a lot of money, or developing them really well, and you need a lot of them. And so with Basayo, it's like he could be that guy that is the first or second best player on a playoff team, or he might be nothing. Like it's still early. He's probably a big leaguer of some kind. He's going to have some power. But I think of it more as that lottery pick that played 1 year in college where you're like, this guy, the variance is huge. He could be anything. But in basketball, you want variance because could be anything means he could be the best player in the league. And in baseball, that's great. But you need 15 guys that are pretty good. And so you can't have a system full of those guys. And so it kind of comes down to the way that Mike Elias or these guys want to think about the farm system because the infield is almost entirely rookies now. So, like, is Kobe Mayo now tradable just because, like, if you think he's the fourth best one out of the guys playing second, short, and third, then he can't really play. He's just like a DH.
Right.
So that guy's expendable. I think Joey Ortiz was seen as, and Daryl Hernandez, who were both traded, they might be, like, opening day starters at shortstop for teams this year, but they weren't going to start for the Orioles. So those guys are a little more expendable, and they weren't going to be superstars. They were going to be pretty good players. We'll see if they are. So if they think that, like, Kobe Mayo is like a two-WAR, like average to a little above player that plays a position where they've already got a better option, that guy's way more tradable. And then you want to hang on to the Basayos. Given where they are, the highest upside guys, those are the guys you hang on to because those are the guys that might break into this lineup. Whereas the guys that might be okay, they've already proven that they're okay giving those guys away.
All right, let's really get the cart before the horse now. Give us a data kind of comparison if you have one. The highest upside that Holiday has in comparison to someone we all know, that obviously has played in the league and or is playing in the league now.
Ooh, okay. Hold on. Let me pull up last year's hitter leaderboard and see it.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so I'm actually looking at the TrackMan data I have on Holiday. So if you want to project him and be a little on the high side on everything, you could say he would hit, 280 with a 12% walk rate with 25 homers and play an average shortstop, which that is pretty close to like Francisco Lindor's good seasons.
Okay.
Obviously not the same player. The way it looks might not be exactly the same.
Right.
But the outcome, like last season, let's see, Lindor, he actually hit 255, but he had that walk rate, had those homers, was a little better at shortstop and a little faster. But like give or take, the best version of that, if you just look at the stat line, could be like top 10. I mean, that was the 8th best WAR in baseball last year. So top 10 player in the game is like technically the upside.
Okay.
But even though he's right there, it's like, I mean, he still could also just be like, a better version of JJ Hardy. Like that's sort of like the lower end of what you could see.
By the way, we'd still take that. Like that would still be good.
But I think that's
still a good player. But I think
Yeah.
expectations. Like I don't think I put a button on it earlier when I was saying that like the 10th or 12th best guy in your system. So last year, the Orioles took Jackson Baumeister in the second round. His prospect value on my system is $1 million, $1.5 million. Jackson Holiday's is $112 million. So the math would say you'd take 50 Holidays or 50 Baumeisters to get to a Holiday, maybe more 60 or 70. And that's like I think it was the 15th guy on their list. Like he's really good and a very good system and is still like wildly not even close to being as valuable as Holiday.
Let me put it out this way. The thing that I started talking to you about, the fact that the depth is starting to dwindle a little bit. I have wondered if it's time now with new ownership for the Orioles, and if they are willing to spend money, is it time for them to consider, like, if somebody really is a part of this thing? If, like, you're looking at Kobe Mayo and where is the place for Ryan Mountcastle? And I'm not suggesting that Ryan Mountcastle is going to land you top prospects, but is it time for them to also start thinking about fortifying their system by trading away guys that truthfully aren't going to be a part of this thing long term because they're going to need to fortify without having the top draft picks in the coming year?
So there's a couple different ways we've seen teams approach this. So like obviously Mike Elias came from Houston. Their approach was basically if you're one of these core players, the Bregman, Altuve, those guys, we lock them up as soon as we identify them. And if you look at, like, I'm in Atlanta, that was another version where they have a similar payroll constraint. And it was basically like, once we think you were a core player for the next 3 or 4 years. We'll just sign you up now. And they have left out some that there haven't been a bunch of guys at big agencies. Haven't been a lot of guys that had huge bonuses out of the draft. So they were internationally. And so they were willing to take, early in the career discounted extensions. I can guarantee without actually knowing that the Orioles have approached multiple young players about extensions. And just knowing who some of these players' agents are, I've been told by other agents. I saw the agent telling the young player, "You're worth more than this." And you probably guess who some of those guys are.
Yep.
I think they're looking to be like, hey, this guy's going to be a part of our future, but sometimes they're just not interested in that, or their agent tells them not to be, or the family's not, whatever it might be. But then you can also look at Tampa if the payroll is at that level, which would obviously be like a bad scenario for O's fans. And basically, once a guy gets to arbitration, he's either gotten an extension or he gets traded. Like, that's just the way they approach it. If you're at that level of being able to produce players and find value and that level of payroll, that's just what you do. That the guy gets an extension before he gets to arbitration, or maybe somebody like Tyler Glasnow is really good. He just rides through arbitration because he wants to hit free agency, which I guess he got his payday this year. You just sort of have like an A, B, maybe C for those players, and everybody just goes through it, in which case you're approaching Holiday and all those guys. And then, there's a version where Holiday gets to year 5, he's on the verge of free agency, and you're like, all right, well, we either take our comp pick or we trade him. Like that's like the reality of those kinds of guys. If they don't want to sign an extension and you're not the team that's going to give them $200 to keep him. And we've seen, say, Boston really waffle on that stuff and not sign Bogarts and let Mookie go and then give it to Devers. And there's, the Dodgers didn't sign anybody to 9-figure deals. And then all of a sudden they gave them to Betts and they gave them to Freeman and then Ohtani and then Yamamoto, but they let Greinke and Machado and a bunch of guys walk first. So there's like a number of different ways to approach this. I think it depends on who the players are, who the agents are, what your options are, what the payroll is going to be. Those are just things we don't know.
So I'll wrap with this, right? The player that you find that you love even more than everybody else does, that's not a top 5 guy, the guy that's a little bit further down the list that you just say, I think this guy is going to be somebody we're going to be talking about a lot more. Who is that?
So that would be Matthew Etzel.
Yeah.
I ranked him 11th. So this is like an interesting story. So he was a junior college outfielder in Texas that, as far as I know, all 30 teams had not turned in the 2021 draft. He then goes to the MLB Draft League, which is right before the draft, and is like off the charts in terms of he doesn't strike out. He has huge contact rates. He's a plus runner that's a center fielder. He was a former football guy that was recruited to Texas A&M for both sports, got hurt, didn't play, transferred to a junior college. Nobody had him turned in. And so he stands out as clearly the best guy in this league. And he's playing like some pro level guys. Some guys will get 300 or 400K in this league. So it's like, like rookie ball competition. And he's 19. He's performing pretty well. And then I talked to some teams, I talked to the agent, and they're like, yeah, he got offers for like 125K, 175K, like just like the minimum or the maximum you can kind of give a guy that you don't really think much about, because they didn't know who he was until 2 weeks before the draft. So you can't really revise what you were doing. So he goes to Southern Miss thinking he can make more money. Has a just okay season. It's not the best player on a mid-major team. Ends up going in, I think it's the 8th or 9th round. And then he signs and immediately looks like the guy that was in the MLB Draft League that had all the tools, that was performing, that looks like he could be that guy. And then you go look at some of the TrackMan stuff, and it's like, yeah, this says he might hit 20 home runs and play center field. Like, how did this guy just go in the 9th round? Like, what was happening at Southern Miss? Like, what clicked? And I haven't quite put it all together yet. But that's the thing that this Orioles team has been doing, is whether it's Basayo or Cobineo or, some of these guys that have been lower picks, lower bonuses, maybe there was a flaw with them, that they, at a higher rate than other teams, are figuring out those flaws. They're figuring out how to tease out the thing they're good at that wasn't playing, or dialing in the swing, or, whatever it might be. They've been better than most teams at both the scouting and the development end of it. And it sounds like Etzel, somebody that I was kind of early on and then was told, like, don't worry about this guy, he's going to go in the 8th or 9th round. And it's like, okay, that was right, but it wasn't right that he's not very, very good. And the Orioles seem very excited about what they found.
He looked very good early on. There's no question about that. Kiley McDaniel, it's at Kiley McD on Twitter is how you can follow him. Is there anything in particular we can plug for you?
No, we just did all the top 100, all the team rankings, the farm rankings, and we'll have draft rankings coming soon. I think I might have a picks to click. We're just doing all of our sort of preseason prospect stuff at ESPN.com, and at my Twitter, I'll kind of tweet out all those links. So yeah, just stay tuned there. I'm in my heavy season of writing right now.
Always appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking some time for us this morning. Looking forward to doing it again soon. All right.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Kiley. Kiley McDaniel with us here on GCR. Let's play Would You Rather Wednesday when we come back in. We'll grab a break, and then we'll go over Would You Rather Wednesday, get a tidbit, 2-bit to wrap things up. If you missed Stan, Ross, and Scotty McGregor earlier this week, you can find that show right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GLENCLARK23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GLENCLARK23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Discover your next favorite beer crafted in the heart of Charm City. At Guilford Hall Brewery, we believe beer should be flavorful and easy to enjoy. Our meticulously crafted lagers and ales are derived from centuries-old European brewing traditions, a staple for both the seasoned beer aficionado or a novice hophead. Experience beer styles that dare to showcase the exceptionality of simplicity. Visit our restaurant and brewery at 1611 Guilford Avenue or view our menu and tap map online at guilfordhall.com. Guilford Hall Brewery, European tradition, Baltimore charm.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now, and it's our very special annual Best Of issue. On the cover, we celebrate Orioles manager Brandon Hyde as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, and the Orioles as our Team of the Year, with Stan the Fan Charles and Glenn Clark sitting down with Hyde to discuss his role in creating the culture that defined the Orioles' magic season. Also inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2023. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Ravens, Terps, and O's at PressBoxOnline.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
Drew is here with us as we're winding down on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. Would You Rather Wednesday brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Someone who participates today will receive a $25 gift card to your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. Would you rather number one?
Nah.
Okay, bet everything you have.
Oh, I'm interested.
I know, as soon as I said that.
Hold on.
On Patrick Mahomes, ultimately at least matching Tom Brady with 7 Super Bowl wins.
Okay.
Or,
well, you're assuming Brady's not going to win another one.
That's a good point. Or bet everything on him ultimately finishing with no more than 4 Super Bowl wins. Same odds.
Well, I'm interested right away when you say bet everything.
Right, I know.
Just throw it out there.
Right.
You're betting he either gets to 8 or 4.
What? Or you can get
I mean,
to
7 or 4.
7 or 3, one way or the other. You could
But
go. You could go over 7, or but you can't bet. You can't say, well, I think he's going to win 5. Well, you can't make that bet.
He's either winning 7 or more or 4 or
you
less.
You have to bet one way or the other. He's going to win 7 or more or 4 or less.
You don't get your money back if he wins 5.
No.
I would take the 7 or more in that bet because he's winning more than 4. That's a definite. You're not winning the bet if you take 4 or less. You might win the bet.
It's an incredibly. I know it's weird because what you're saying doesn't sound bold, but it is. it's really bold to say someone is definitely winning multiple Super Bowls.
Right. He's going to win 2 more. He's going to win 2 more.
It seems that way. It sure as hell seems that way.
He'll win 1 with the Chargers in 7 years.
Okay.
Like Brady won 1 with the Bucks.
I think there are still questions that have to be asked here. How long is Andy Reid going to coach? How much of a factor is Andy Reid? To the point we found out that obviously, Tom Brady was the bigger factor than Bill Belichick was as that went on. But is that definitely the case in this instance? We don't know yet. How big of a factor would it be if Travis Kelce, who showed some signs of decline this season and before ultimately, fixing all of that when the playoffs came around, if there are more signs of decline a year from now, how much of a factor is that for the Chiefs?
Someone asked me this today at Drew's Morning Dish, Ed Jones. What are the
That
percent?
doesn't sound real. I don't think that's a real person.
Ed Jones.
Ed Jones.
Ed Jones.
Right. I hear you, but it's all right.
What are the percentages that Mahomes wins 5 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowls, 7, and more than 7? Anyway, I said it's 80% that he wins 5, 50% that he wins 6, 30% that he wins 7, 15% that he wins more than 7. So I think he has a 50% chance to win 3 more.
So you would obviously bet that way. I
would. He's not winning 1 or 0. That's not happening. I don't think. He's just too good.
He's really good. There's no debate about it.
And as time goes on, and they go through the ebb and flow of all the cap issues,
right.
They're going to give him better players. Guys are going to want to go play there. Someone's going just use Beckham as an example, like an aging wide receiver with 2 years or 3 years of tread left on his tires will want to go there.
Yeah, let me just
Jamar Chase will want to go there and play with Patrick Mahomes or Cooper Kupp. There's going to be guys that are always going to want to play with him for sure. So he's here to stay.
I just don't think that I could bet on him winning 4 more. I just don't think
I know.
do that. I think
and that's the
I'm
thing.
not going to bet against him.
I
So
try to
that's-
treat. I look at these a little bit like major championships in golf, right? It's been different in tennis because the same 3 guys have won them all.
Yes.
But in golf, some people always say this to me. What's the mark of a great, great, great player? And I always say, I think if you win 4 or more, you are out of this world great.
It's pretty disrespectful to John Daly, by the way.
Who only won 2.
Pretty disrespectful.
And it's kind of disrespectful to Vijay Singh, who only won 3. But if you look at the lineage of the guys who won 4, there's something about them. Ernie Els, Ray Floyd, obviously Phil, Koepka. Those are the guys that have – and Rory's trying to win 4. And or Rory does have 4. Sorry, he doesn't have the Masters, but he does have 4. Does have 4, right? Yeah, because he won the U.S. Open.
Yeah,
he won
2
PGAs, and he won the British, right? Something about 4. But then think about this, right? Think about how great Phil is. And if Tiger would have never been Tiger, Phil would be Phil would arguably be the greatest player of the last 30 years, and it wouldn't even be close. Right? Phil only won 6. Now, part of the reason he only won 6 was because of Tiger. Part of the reason Mahomes has 3 instead of 4 is because of Brady. Because Brady beat him once, right?
Well, his own offensive line contributed to that quite a bit.
But you know what I'm saying. Like, so Mahomes is benefiting from the fact that Brady isn't in the league anymore. And in the same way that Koepka is benefiting the fact that Tiger is no longer Tiger. But I look at these Super Bowls a little bit like major championships. Like, they are really, really hard to win. So you're saying he's got 3 now. Could he possibly win 3 more? He can if he is that great.
Right. Well, he can, and I just don't think it's a reasonable bet.
Roethlisberger was never winning 4.
Of course not. He wasn't.
Eli was never winning 4.
I get it.
Peyton would have won 7 if not for Brady.
Yep.
They just happened to be Peyton is Phil Mickelson.
In a way, I would still argue that some of that was Peyton himself, right?
But Peyton was Phil Mickelson data-wise. He was always second fiddle to Tom Brady. There's plenty of things, by the way, in golf. Tiger would never admit this. There are some things in their golf games that Phil is more adept at than Tiger.
Fair.
Tiger's career all this is a negative to say.
I would say the same thing
Tiger,
about Agassi and Sampras, by the way.
Fair. Agassi did something Sampras never did.
Yeah, he won the French.
Right.
Yep.
But Tiger's career, if you look at his history, and by no means am I diminishing what Tiger did. By no means. Tiger's career feasted largely on golf courses that had 4 par 5s.
Just hit the crap out of the ball, right?
At Tiger's zenith, he started every tournament at -12.
Fair.
If he had 4 par 5s,
Right.
he wasn't 16 under, but he was 12 under before he started.
Right.
And now all he had to do was play those holes in even par or better and not throw a double bogey in there somewhere and make 6 other birdies. He was going to beat you.
Right. No, I get it.
Phil could play the par 70 courses
Mhm.
because his short game was way better. Well, I shouldn't say way better. His short game was
Yeah,
superior to Tiger.
He didn't chip it. He didn't make that chip shot at Augusta. Let's settle down.
That's true. But Phil had a more of an array of shots around the green, but he couldn't compete with Tiger's length.
How does this happen to me? I always end up letting him. I always let him get.
Well, but
Am I getting the same odds on
it's
both here?
It's a
Yeah, same
synergy,
odds. Same odds.
but it's
Well,
a
then-
synergy to the comment about how hard it is for these people to win. Mahomes has got a better chance of winning 6 or 7 because he is Brady. He's not playing against Brady. He's the best quarterback in the league. So
Yep.
it is an easier road. Easier is the wrong word. He has an advantage because he is Tom Brady.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So-
I get it. I still couldn't make.
I
that.
would.
And so here's the argument: Lamar or someone else. No, but I'm saying Lamar or Herbert or Allen.
Yes, they would have to
Well,
step in and do something.
They've got to
about
beat.
it. Right,
They've
I
got to
get it,
beat
yes.
Tiger.
Well, that's what
I
they're
get
saying
it.
about Lamar. He's Phil. He's Peyton.
Right, but there's also in
Right.
making a bet like this. To be fair, Tiger's the great example because in making a bet like this, you're also including some of the factors that you don't think about, right? Like physically,
If you'd
is
asked-
something going to happen to Patrick Mahomes that's going to prevent him
Right.
from being able to
No
do
doubt.
this for the
If
rest
you'd
of
have
his
said to me
life.
in 2010, I saw the script,
Yeah.
Tiger wins 15 majors, I would have said you're absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
he's going to win 20.
Minimum.
25, right, something like that.
Right.
But physically, and obviously other issues that he dealt with within his life, completely derailed that and he only won one more.
He's still. This is the thing people always say about the issues with Elon. He still won gobs of tournaments after that.
Right.
The injuries crushed him.
Right.
I'm not saying his marital strife didn't
Yeah, have an
impact him,
right,
but
correct.
what really crushed him were his physical problems. And you're right. Mahomes could get those.
Right.
I would bet. I mean, since I'm getting the same odds, I guess I don't know.
It's
I'm
so,
gonna
it's
take
just
him-
so absurd to
You're
bet somebody win 4
betting.
more
You're betting
Super
all your
Bowls.
money
It's
anyway.
so
Who cares?
absurd.
Just
Yeah,
bet
it's
it.
That's a good point.
Great
Just,
bet.
yeah, he'll win all of them.
All right, Orioles today. We were talking about this yesterday. Orioles today announced an 8-year, $200 million deal for Cody Bellinger. Or either that's too rich for your blood, or you'd rather them just save their money. And the only way that you should be spending money right now is on your own guys.
Well, where is he playing?
Who? Bellinger?
Does it matter?
Doesn't.
Whose
Why
spots
would
he
it matter?
taking?
On the Orioles.
Yeah,
But
I
whose
mean,
spots he taking?
you figured that out. That's what I said yesterday. That to me is not a problem. That's not something that I'm like. You get a chance to go get a baseball player, you figure that out. Now, if you say you don't want to do it, that's a different conversation. But it's not going to be based about where is he going to play. I'll figure that out. That's not a real problem.
How old is he? 30?
28? Is that what we figured
Yeah,
out
28.
yesterday?
He'll be 29 at some point during the season. Yeah.
Of course, he'll be 29 at some point.
Well, but
You would
during
hope.
the season.
Oh,
That does matter.
I mean, I'll
Like,
be 80 at some point.
Thank you.
I
No,
hope.
no,
Well-
he's saying this year he'll be
right.
before the season is over. He'll be 29.
And you're opposing this because of the money element.
Because
Either
it
way,
worries,
why don't we
it
save our-
worries me that
that-
they
why don't
won't
we
be able to
save our-
sign-
Griffin
yeah.
brought this up yesterday.
It worries
They-
me that they won't be able to sign Gunnar or Adley.
Well, that's my point.
Or Holiday.
You're saying
But I would also say there are people that don't think you can sign. That Cody Bellinger's been too inconsistent in his career, and just because he had a big year last year doesn't mean
Yeah.
that you can sign him
But
to a
these-
$25 million a year deal.
right.
for
Well,
8 years.
okay. So these are distinctly they are almost two different topics. Are you afraid that $200 million could have been earmarked for someone else? Now it's earmarked to Bellinger.
I'm giving
or-
you both. You can say no for either of those reasons.
I think I would pass.
Okay.
I would.
And the reason I would pass is not if they won 88 games last year or 84,
Right.
I might take him.
Yeah. Make the difference.
They're going to win 110 without him.
You're so bullish about this. You
I'm
better solve the
also-
back end of the bullpen, Chief. You better figure
Well,
that
when
part
you're
out.
7-2 ahead, you don't need the bullpen.
Great point. Win all the games by 10, no problem.
yeah, I'll also
You doubters,
8
you
years.
haters will see.
God, and that could really, maybe it won't matter. Like Rubenstein will just spend and spend and spend, and it won't matter. But yeah, like what happened with Chris Davis. Like,
but this is,
I'm not worried about that. I just don't think he's
impacting our ability to talk about this.
Think about this.
I really do.
Chris Davis.
I think it'll be.
He's
not because of Chris
Jacoby
Davis,
Ellsbury.
because of how things went.
Yeah.
Maybe
he's Jacoby Ellsbury.
But what's wrong with having Jacoby Ellsbury?
Well, when he was with the
You can
Yankees,
have
everything.
Adley,
he was terrible.
I have this, like, if that's the only player you're going
Johnny
to sign,
Damon.
then of course you don't. But to me, if the Orioles are signing Cody Bellinger, it's because they're saying, we're going to sign a lot of dudes. We're going to spend money. Like, this comes back to the same thing that I said about Chris Davis. In hindsight, if Chris Davis was the only contract you were ever going to sign, of course it was insane to sign Chris Davis. But the only reason you should have been signing Chris Davis is because you were willing to spend money on other baseball players as well. Now, the Orioles,
I'm just not ready for that until I see it. You know,
understand.
it's like
he was
like
a hell of a.
Burns.
He is a hell of a player. I would have thought he's got a better average than 258.
Because he had 3 really bad years. He had 3
he batted 200
bad
or something
years.
1 year.
Now, one of them was the 2020 season, so it's hard
count.
how do you even weigh
World
that?
Series
That was
That's
COVID.
true, technically. It's, with
That
an
was the
asterisk.
COVID year.
But, like, the year after that, he hit 165 in 95 games in 2021.
That was bad, yeah.
2 years ago, he hit 210. So, what is Cody Bellinger?
He's Jacoby Ellsbury. He wishes he were Johnny Damon, who, by the way, had 2,700 hits in his career. 2 more years, he'd have been a Hall of Famer.
He also had a 47 home
Which
run
is hilarious.
season, which
I know.
I don't know what to do with that.
Oh, you know what that
If I was
about.
signing him for 1 year, a $30 million.
Griffin,
this
it's
year.
Would You Rather Wednesday.
Yeah. This year.
Just say no. No, the answer is
You don't
no.
get to do this.
The answer is no. The answer is no.
Report you to Ryan Frazier. He's our governor of Would You Rather
How about we
Wednesday.
sign him?
Stop it. Shut up.
The
Number
answer
3.
is no.
Would you rather the NFL heeds the advice of some, including Dan Patrick, who were loudly saying last week that the Super Bowl should be moved to Saturday, or no, it's fine, leave it as it is?
Dan Patrick said this?
Yes.
1,000,000% move the game to Saturday.
We disagree.
1,000,000%.
We disagree.
What about? Just make Monday off.
Well, I've said it a million times. That's going to happen. We're all
Just 1,000,000% move the game to Saturday.
The plan was always for there to be 18 regular season games. They could only get to 17.
And then you could have an Alicia Keys concert on Sunday.
You could, 100%. I'm not opposed
Although
to that
that first note the other night.
Yeah.
My Lord.
She's not what she was.
Watch yourself.
She's still very good.
But the first note the other night. My Lord, they had to doctor that up.
That was a tough one.
Better than Usher.
They're going to figure this out because they can't have the Super Bowl
Move the game to Saturday.
Whatever year it is that the Super Bowl would line up with Valentine's Day, they're going to fix this before then. They're going to make it an 18-game regular season. The Super Bowl will be bumped
What's
back
Valentine's Day got to do with it?
They had like a 6-year cushion that they weren't going to have to worry about those two things. They're going to figure it out before then.
But what's Valentine's Day have to do with it?
Well, I understand what you're saying is that no one would care about that. Super Bowl would drown Valentine's Day completely, but it's a good time frame for them in order to get it done beforehand.
Gotcha.
They always wanted it to be an 18-game regular season.
Of course. They want it to be a 24.
They're going to get to 18. They just had to go with the middle ground in order to get the players to bite, right? So they got the middle ground. Now they're putting games anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Brazil,
everybody's going to play.
Spain.
There's going to be. You realize there will come a time when everyone plays an international game.
Almost certainly.
Oh yeah.
Almost certainly.
Well, you got to have 16 games.
Right.
He wants to have an entire week international.
Of course. They want to have 6. Did you? By the way, did you know he makes?
I saw that. Maybe,
what do you think he makes
50,
for a year? So, keep going.
60. It's over 60 now. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Good for him. It's good work if you can get it. Good work.
He needs Vince McMahon.
Just don't say that. Don't say that.
Oh my Lord.
So
how much of that's true, by the way? 0% to 100.
Oh, the stories that I had heard years ago.
How much is true?
I would say
of this current story,
70% of it is true. I would say it's more, and I would say he's fortunate that this is the only part that's coming out, because the stories that I had been told by professional wrestlers over the years. Now, again, how many of them are just saying S to say S or saying things I can't independently verify all of them, but there are enough stories that the idea that I can say they're all made up, nonsense. I would say that at least 70% of this is true.
If 70% of the lawsuit is true, I mean, he might be the most heinous human being in the world.
Fact. But I would tell you that the stories that I've heard would tell me he is definitively the most heinous human being in the world. Definitively. Now, again, I can't guarantee those things to be true.
Man. I
started in 2006. That was the first time that I heard from a story that made me say, yeah, I'm never going to look at this dude the same way. Never. You know what? If you stick around, I'll tell you about it afterwards. I don't care that the game's on Sunday. It's fine. It's fine. But I'm the wrong person to concern about this. People have things to do on Saturdays.
Watch the Super Bowl.
No, kids have like rec tournaments and stuff like that. I don't need more events on Saturdays.
We flip everything and just for that 1 week, the
kids have to move to Sunday. Well, like the churches do things on Sunday, so I don't think they're open for hosting.
Churches do things every Sunday, and football goes on.
I understand. I'm saying I'm gonna leave it. Sunday's fine.
Shouldn't be doing anything on Sunday. So playing golf.
I don't know. I guess I don't feel too strongly either way.
All right.
It's a day of rest.
Number 4. Imagine you're single again. Potential partner that you've had.
This is not a good idea on Valentine's Day.
I understand. We'll get there. Potential partner you've had your eye on for a long time.
All right. Selma Hayek.
Sure. You don't know her, so it's somebody you would have known at the time.
Mrs. Clark.
Sure.
She was lovely. She was looking good at the AFC Championship game.
Was she? I didn't see
I
her.
don't know. I wasn't paying
attention. You didn't notice. They offer, she says, tell you what, Valentine's Day, I'm going to spend the night with you. Ooh. Wow. Right? But
those were the days.
But what you don't know about me is I'm actually a diehard Texas Rangers and Kansas City Chiefs fan. And the trade-off for me being willing to spend the night with you is that you have to rewatch with me the ALDS and the AFC Championship game ahead of time. Or you're spending Valentine's Day alone.
I mean, you know the answer to this. It totally depends on who it is.
I'm painting the picture.
It's not
you
Selma
start
Hayek.
with it's somebody that you've had your eye on, that you've looked at. You've said, I'd like for that to be my. So Griffin's a better example.
Valentine, right?
Right. I'd love.
I'd like
to
for
be spending,
Griffin to be my Valentine.
I'd love to be spending my Wednesday evening with this young lady, and she approaches you and says, "Yeah, it's like the song. It's the Wheatus song. I got 2 tickets to Iron Maiden.
Okay,
baby. Come with me Friday night."
Define spend the night.
You know exactly what spend the night means.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
I want to clarify that. That's part of the deal.
I'm trying to clean this up as much as I can.
You don't have to.
Man, you gotta watch the entire ALDS again.
Yep, all 3 games and the AFC Championship game. She's coming over at like 3 in the afternoon. Got to watch them all.
You know that the only
is Chinese food involved. I'm in.
I don't think she likes Chinese food.
I'm in. I gave it up for Lent, by the way.
Oh yeah. So when are we going to the Asian Kitchen then?
After Easter.
When's that?
March 31st.
Oh God.
I know.
That's not too
you think it's going to be hard on you?
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't know that you ate anything else.
I didn't. That's the problem. That's why I've lost 11 pounds. Yeah, I'll watch them. I mean, you want to know the truth? I kind of watched the ALDS anyway. So
what?
Yeah, I was a closet Rangers fan. I was betting on them the whole time. No, I'm kidding. I would watch it. Sure. It's sports, and I already know the outcome.
Not I.
It's way easier to watch it when you know the outcome.
This is probably difficult for me. It's okay for me to not have sex for one night. Like, it's okay. I'll live. I'll survive. There'll be other nights.
I don't have to sit through the commercials, right? We just skip right in.
Yeah, it's just the games.
Okay.
Yeah.
You already know how they end. You don't even. There's no suspense.
That's the part of the reason why it's like it's not just they're losing. It's that like there's nothing interesting about this. I'm going to be.
Who didn't Nance and Romo do the?
They did. So you got that going for you. I thought Romo was great, by the way.
I'm good there.
Sunday. I didn't think he was great in the AFC.
I did too. He overuses
the
the leverage term a lot, and he does have a tendency to almost. He's so smart about the game, and he knows so much that it does get lost a little. But I do think he's awesome, and it's funny. I got into a debate about him the other day with somebody who said he's jumped the shark, he's terrible, he's blah blah blah, and I'm like, it's. Football is such a difficult sport to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And this is back to my argument about people who think they know more than the coaches. You don't know jack. And he's the one guy. I tend to disagree with a lot of people who talk about Collinsworth. People hate Collinsworth. I think Collinsworth does a nice job. He's much different than Romo in that he does like to personalize things, and Romo's much more about the game. Mm-hmm. And we always joke around about like sitting there watching the game in your underwear. Romo is so excited about football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He loves it.
It's guttural.
And you could see him like
guttural.
taking off his pants.
Yeah,
like,
you could hear it.
This is awesome.
Yep.
Like he loves it.
Yep.
And he is very, very good at what he does. I agree with you.
My favorite play, it was in overtime. I just pulled it up if you want, but the Niners are showing blitz, and he's like they should have two of these guys drop back.
It's the 3rd and 6 play.
Yes,
it's
yeah.
the 3rd
And they throw it right to the guy.
They send them all, and he's like,
and
they
shouldn't have done that.
They shouldn't have done
you
that.
Go ahead. I did like that. Like I have rewatched that too. I thought it was one of his finest moments all night, and I thought he had a great game. I thought he was excellent.
I did too.
Courtesy
better
of
than Usher.
CBS. Usher was good. They just
He was terrible.
No, he wasn't.
They come after him when they've been up in here. I expect them to drop out this time. Oh, they shouldn't have done that. Up ahead he goes. Rice has the first down, and he's out of bounds at the
tremendous.
They shouldn't have done
They
that.
come after him when they've been up in here. I expect them to
I don't
drop
think
out this
I think
time.
he's had a really up and down year.
Oh, they shouldn't have done that. Up ahead
I would also say that one of the reasons he's had an up and down year is
he set the bar very high for himself.
Yes, and I also think he now has fallen into. I don't really care what happens in Week 7 between the Browns and the Steelers.
Oh, sure. There's some of
I
that.
really don't care about this game.
They also got a weird, they kept getting the Chiefs every week. Ironically, the Chiefs ended up being the Super Bowl champions. But for a part of the season, the Chiefs game wasn't the most interesting game that was going on.
I think if you give him, if you let him, not that they would ever, if you said to Tony Romo on Sunday, hey, pick next Sunday where do you want to go?
Right.
He'd be great every week.
That's a great point.
I'll go do Lamar and Detroit.
But they keep getting the Chiefs and the Cowboys. They just keeps getting the Chiefs or the Cowboys. And at some point, we've already told all those
bored.
stories. Yeah.
But in the postseason, he's not bored.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
He's not
How'd
bored.
you feel about people were upset, with the final call? So Nance stopped talking, and then Tony jumped in during the final call.
Nance
immediately described the play and stuff? And
no, Nance said something right away when he had a line all prepared.
Well, he always does.
Repeat.
Like
what
that.
did he say?
Whatever. I
Repeat
don't
Chiefs
know.
or something?
It didn't bother me. Nothing
If
bothered
either one of you say, if I even think you're saying something negative about Nance,
I know you're gonna
be a fist fight.
No, you won't. You won't do that. You're 60. Stop it. But I get that.
For Nance, there might be a fist fight.
Quickly, Griffin, what was your answer for the last one?
What's 60 have to do with it?
I guess I'll sit through the games again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
they're just throwing in the background,
but it's
right?
not gonna be
Spoken
your
like
girl
a true
Dixie.
22-year-old.
I guess if you force me to. I don't know.
Just throwing in the background, right? That's just
No. You have to go through
pay
all
attention.
that before you get to the other part.
I mean,
of the
I guess
evening.
since I was at the Orioles games at Camden Yards, it'd be interesting to see how they portrayed Camden Yards on TV.
What did we
again.
lose Game 3 by?
Like that.
Was it 5-1?
7-0? What was it?
No, they
6-0?
Did we
scored
score?
some runs.
7-1.
They did. They
7-1?
ended up scoring. Yeah, I think.
What was the final of that?
Who could remember?
Let's go back over that real quick.
No, why would we do that? We're not getting the night. We're not getting that night.
Who pitched in that game? Dean
Well, I'm
Kramer?
gonna have to do it tonight anyway. Yeah. So.
For God's sake.
Who started?
Yeah, Dean.
Dean.
What do you mean?
Deansy.
Dino.
Mean Dean.
Oh, Dino.
Hey, CountySportsZone.com is your
What was the
headquarters.
score?
Shut up.
7-1.
7-1.
CountySportsZone.com is your headquarters for local high school scores, schedules, and standings across all sports. CountySportsZone.com is proudly sponsored by Toyota. Hey, will Tidbit hold until tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's 12:30.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Here, I'll give you one really quick one. It
Okay,
was
I gotta go.
so Mahomes became the
This
second
really
player.
quick one is
in
brought to you by
Super-
the print issue of Press Box, which is still available. It's the best of issue. Go get it at your neighborhood Royal Farms.
He became the second player in Super Bowl history to win the Super Bowl and also lead his team in passing and rushing. Who did Mahomes join?
Win the Super Bowl,
Lead his team in
passing and rushing.
Oh.
Steve Young.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
that was
Glenn and I got that one.
Yeah, did we get that one?
I was going to say Randall Cunningham until I forgot.
Yeah, they never won.
He never won.
Correct.
And Michael Vick.
Yeah. Tubular is brought to you by the Green Turtle. Griffin, what's going on at the Green Turtle?
Get your free $10 bet at the Green Turtle on Thursday, every Thursday. It is the place to be. The Green Turtle Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, offering you your free $10 bet on whatever you would like. You can experience the ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. So go check out the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. Go pick up your free bet and make some money while enjoying some food and sports tomorrow night.
If you're having a sad Valentine's Day alone, you can make it sadder. Iowa, Maryland, tonight at 8:30 on the Big Ten Network.
Oh, we're not losing tonight.
Sure. You go ahead. What kind of guarantee do you want to double down on the Asian?
We're going to hold that girl to 21.
Yeah, right. No, they already played that game. This is the main, unfortunately.
I actually think we're losing tonight.
Probably. It's bad.
We beat them there.
That's true. That did happen.
We had 19 turnovers there. I don't think we're going to turn it.
It's so funny how he says we. This guy.
Well,
we,
Maryland.
I get it. No, State school.
How'd that Indiana game go? I mean, the Ohio State game go.
Not so great.
And the Indiana game.
You see Ohio State just fired.
They fired Chris Holtman. Yeah.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, ESPN Plus, Loyola Lafayette, 7 o'clock. American and Navy at 7 o'clock. The PLL Championship Series, first game's on ESPN
No
2.
thanks.
Second game on ESPN Plus. What a guy you are. Daytona 500 qualifying. NASCAR is back. That's the real reason why you were supposed to be in here today, was to break down the 500 for us.
I will have a wager or two on Sunday.
Oh, yeah?
I do.
Tonight.
I love betting on the Daytona 500.
Who you betting on?
Well, my brother-in-law will give me the big tip.
Okay. Joe's sister got married?
No, yes, but they're all, never mind. Yes, they were married 20 years ago. He used to be a NASCAR crew guy.
What, is that the one that I met?
What's the guy, Austin? What's
Does she
his
have multiple
Dylan?
sisters?
Is it Austin Dillon?
Austin Dillon.
Yeah, she has 3 other sisters.
Oh, okay. Well,
Is it
it's not the one
Austin
that I met
Dillon?
then.
What are his odds?
She was lovely.
Austin Dillon's 3,000 plus 3,000.
Go bet it right now. Superbook.com. Download the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up. Receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose.
What's your winner?
Austin Dillon? Okay, very good. Daytona 500 qualifying at 8 on FS1.
Sung J. M is your Genesis winner.
Oh, I was wondering about that. Monumental, again, if you want to be sad, Monumental Wizards Pelicans at 8 o'clock. Suns tried to screw that up
How about
last
the
night.
Caps losing again? Ovechkin's got to go on 6 straight, though.
Yeah, he's the record back on.
Well, I mean, he's got 60 to go, but
ESPN Bulls Cavs at 7:30, Clippers Warriors at 10, TNT Panthers Penguins at 7:30, Champions League this afternoon on Paramount Plus, Lazio and Bayern Munich at 3, Paris Saint-Germain. I don't know how to say it correctly.
No, you said it right. Paris Saint-Germain.
It's not that. Real Sociedad
Here it
at
is.
3 o'clock. TBS AEW Dynamite tonight at 8. Non-sports highlights.
Abbott Elementary, new episode. Since it's Valentine's Day, new season of Love is Blind on Netflix, of course.
Sure.
And on Apple TV Plus, The New Look. This is it's a TV show. It's about the story of Christian Dior, and it looks pretty good. It's like Coco Chanel.
what about
Balenciaga.
Saltburn?
That's out there, yeah.
Drew,
That'll be out.
I almost hated you
Ben
for that.
Mendelsohn is Christian Dior.
So
It looks
funny
really
to
good,
me.
actually.
I almost hated you for that.
Did your wife sit down and watch it
No.
with you? Yeah, good thing. Now, do you want to go back and re-answer last week's question?
What was the
One
question?
man 60-minute show,
Oh.
or describe. Go to a senior citizens home and do a book club where you have to graphically describe Saltburn.
No, I'm good.
Did you see the part where we were informed? Zach Seidel told us that the third scene, the grave scene, was totally impromptu.
I hope so.
It was improvised by
I hope it was.
Barry Kogan just on his own.
That's the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
Pretty messed up. Pretty messed up, man.
The whole
Pretty
thing that a human being created that and thought that was passable, and then someone on Netflix said, "You know what we should do?
Prime,
Air this. I mean, Prime. Yeah. Air this."
You watched it.
I watched it again last night.
Yeah. That girl was
by the way,
lovely.
tonight I think Nikki Haley is on CNN.
Isn't she on like every day now?
I think there's some special tonight where she is going to go toe to toe or something with somebody.
Are you throwing? Are you?
I mean, I'd
You
win
were-
over her, I think, but my dog would win over her.
Oh, I meant. Are you throwing? You were very vocal about your support for the other guy. The guy, the Vivek. You were very vocal about that guy. Now, are you going another way on this, or you're out?
No.
You're out.
I mean, are you asking me who I'm going to vote
I
for?
don't care about that. I'm saying, are you going to choose to be vocal the way that you were vocal about?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. No. I mean, once he's out, I'm not. I
He
don't
was
think
out a while ago.
Well, I'm saying I would have voted for him for sure, and I would have encouraged people to vote for him.
Yeah.
And failing that,
I would have passed.
I don't see anyone worth voting for.
I would have. Well, that part. That's the part we might agree about. We might agree about that part.
When there's a candidate worth voting for, someone come to me and present them.
I never felt like there was one of those.
Right.
All right. Very good. Drew'sMorningDish.com.
Does Jo Jorgensen run again?
I don't think so. But
I voted for her last time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
I was one of the 1,400 in Maryland and voted for her.
Did I ever tell you about the time? Who was the?
How about last time when they're voting?
I
went to Towson and didn't even ask me for my ID.
I went to a party once with Katie Brown. We showed up to this party. It was at a house. I walk in and Jill Stein is standing there.
That's pretty funny.
I'm like, what the F?
That's funny.
She's like, I didn't know this was. Katie just got invited to a party. Said, come along with me.
And she was what at that point? The
Green Party, I want to say.
Okay.
Was what she was in. Jill, and it was in an election year. Like, she was there
That's pretty
in an
funny.
election year.
Let me tell you kids about
just
me.
at a party in Towson. I'm like, hi.
When
Doctor's
I
fine.
went to take my license out of my wallet,
Yeah, they said, go ahead.
no,
All right.
the guy held up his hands and said, no, don't need to see that. And I'm like,
Well,
you don't need to see my ID?
but they don't sell booze there. I mean, like, you're
But
good.
but I could have gone up and said, I'm Glenn Clark. I live at this address in Moncton, and they would have said,
Right, but that would be a federal offense. If you did that, you would go to jail. Like, that's the way that works.
yeah.
Like, you say that you could,
Yeah.
but they actually do prosecute people for that.
Yeah.
Like, they
do.
do.
Do they?
They do.
Yeah.
That happens. All right.
It happened about 14
Stop,
million
would you
times.
Shut up.
2 years ago, 4 years
God,
ago.
the golf show's not on this Sunday, but he'll be with me, Glenn Clark and friends.
I got a couple of S burgers for you on
105.7.
Monday, buddy. Oh,
Tune in for Glenn Clark and friends, the new
6 o'clock?
new radio show. I don't.
What on earth are we thinking about?
I-
Who's
you-
producing?
You want to do it? Jaron is.
Oh, Jaren's pretty cool.
Jaron's great. I like Jaron.
Yeah.
Break down the Daytona and
Yeah,
Oh.
that's exact. Daytona 500
And the Genesis.
NBA All-Star game.
And the
I'm
Genesis.
so sure. That'll be the awkward part is I will have watched no sports this weekend.
Well, Genesis
None.
Invitational.
There is nothing for me. Sure.
Tiger's driving. The standing
gotta
joke
go.
is Tiger's driving himself back and forth to the
I
course.
don't think that's smart. I think they should have somebody else do it. All right. Thanks today to Paul Rabil. Thanks to Drew, I guess. Thanks also
I gotta
to
go.
Kiley McDaniel and to Tony Pauline. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, Dan Williams, former Stevenson quarterback who's now an assistant coach with the Chiefs, is going to check in with us. His third Super Bowl ring.
Good gig.
Clark Judge will join
Yes.
us tomorrow, and I think Spiro Marikis will be hanging out with us to do our annual look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ballot. So, did you look at it? It's out.
No, but show it to me.
Oh, not. We gotta
Just
go.
show it. No, you don't have anywhere to go.
Yes, I've got to figure out where my wife's flowers are because she left work early today.
God, please. She doesn't like you anymore.
Well, that
Pull
might
up
be
the-
true, but she still requires flowers on Valentine's Day.
Pull up the rock and roll.
God damn it.
Mary
Pull it
J.
up.
Blige, Mariah
Oh,
Carey.
whoa. These are people that are up for
These are the
nomination. I mean,
finalists.
finals.
Nominees.
Okay, go ahead.
Cher.
No, go back to Mary Kay Blige.
Mary J.
I said Mary Kay. Mary J. Blige. A maybe.
Stop it. We're doing this tomorrow.
But
Mariah
go.
Carey.
Maybe.
Cher.
Maybe.
Dave Matthews Band.
1,000,000%.
Really? Foreigner.
Maybe. They were really good. They started all the love songs.
Eric B. and Rakim.
I don't know who those are,
that's
but
what I
that's a
said.
no.
It's a yes.
Jane's Addiction.
Yes.
Peter Frampton.
50-50.
Cool in the Gang.
No, they had one good song.
Lenny Kravitz.
Yes.
Yes, but maybe not this year.
Oasis.
Yes.
Sinead O'Connor.
Oh, my God.
Sinead O'Connor, and yes.
That's what I said. Ozzy Osbourne.
She's a great singer. Ozzy Osbourne's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of
Black
Fame.
Sabbath is.
But Ozzy's
this
not?
would be specifically his solo career that would be recognized in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I mean, yeah.
I don't feel strongly about that.
Yeah, that song with
I
Post
don't
Malone.
either, but
Like, he's in Black Sabbath's in the Rock and Roll Hall
you
of
know he
Fame.
did drugs.
No.
Yep.
No.
He did.
Ozzy Osbourne?
He did. Go ahead.
I don't believe
Sade.
that.
Sade.
Oh, my
Are you
God.
doing this to take the piss or what?
I-
Sade.
I saw
She's a no. She's a great singer, but she's a no.
a Tribe Called Quest.
I really like a Tribe Called Quest. I know why people don't. I get it. It sounds a lot of it sounds the same. I think yes, but they're a no.
That is the
What the hell
list.
just happened?
They're a no.
That is the list.
Oh, for God's sake.
And how many can get
Yeah, how
in?
many-
I don't know what that number is. I
If
don't.
Dave Matthews isn't in, you should
But
burn the place
understand,
down.
Like, this is the problem.
Well, what
talking
happened to
about Ozzy.
Soundgarden?
It's not. They didn't make it. They're not on the nominees. Not on the list.
Soundgarden's not on the
Stone
list this
Temple
year.
Pilots, the whole. Yep. Everybody that we talked about.
Shouldn't even do the show tomorrow.
Wow, settle down. Would you settle down?
Oasis.
Just understand, like, War Pigs is represented in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Black Sabbath is in. So you'd have to really go through and comb through Ozzy's solo career. It's not recognizing the totality of his career.
I understand. I don't care if you don't put him in. I mean, that's fine.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be. I don't feel as strongly about his solo career as the totality of Ozzy.
I do think of all the girls you mentioned at the beginning, I do think that
Mary J. Blige and Mariah Carey should both be in.
I don't know.
They say 5 to 7
I'm
are
kind of 50-50 on Mary J. Blige. I keep calling her Mary
What-
Kay
what-
because we have a woman at Eagles
sells
Nest called
Mary
Mary
Kay?
Kay. No, called
Oh,
Mary, her name
okay.
is Mary Kay Mosh. Mary J. Blige, I'm 50-50 on. Mariah Carey, I would acquiesce on that and say she should be in.
I have no problem with shut. This is a real problem. I like most of them. I don't have a problem with. There's very few on this list that I say are you crazy? I have very few on this list that I feel that way about.
Sinead O'Connor's a yes.
Tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. This has been the longest show since the last longest show. Did I thank everybody? Thank all the
Thanks
great.
for teaching me.
No, let's do that again.
No, sponsors and partners.
I gotta go.
We gotta do 4 hours on Monday. Then I gotta come over here and do 2 more. Thanks to everybody at Live Casino and Hotel, Mother's North Grill, AJ Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, Superbook Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Somebody find my wife's flowers. Have a great Wednesday night. Go Terps, go Loyola, go Navy. Duke sucks.